Chapter 1605. The majestic and magnificent northern palace hall stood tall. In the middle of the palace, a snake-like river flowed, filled with intense river energy. Above the river, there was a statue exuding supreme majesty, looking down at the crowd. In front of the palace, there were already two figures standing. Lin Feng let out a soft cry of surprise. Two beautiful figures entered his sight. The woman on the left had a beautiful face. Her hair was decorated with stars, and her ears were pierced with clouds. On her delicate face, there were two purple lightning runes. She was one of the three strongest, Violet Electric. When he saw her again, he felt completely different. Not only him, but also Violet Electric herself. Her strength has broken through. Lin Feng was very clear about Violet Electric's change. Originally, her strength was only at the ordinary level of the Black Region Master, and she was the weakest of the three strongest. But now, she was at the peak of the Black Region Master. Not surprisingly, with Violet Electric's wisdom and strength, it was too easy for her to become the crown princess in the Essence Iron Ancestral Land, which was the lowest difficulty. First, there were no competitors there. Second, the difficulty of the Ancestral Land itself was low. Promotion was very simple, but there were gains and losses. The rewards in the Essence Iron Ancestral Land would definitely be less than the other three Ancestral Lands. The woman on the right was different from Purple Lightning. She wore a phoenix coronet and was dressed in robes made of clouds. Her eyes were bright red. Just by standing there, she exuded the aura of a superior. Although she did not reveal any aura, it was hidden and unfathomable. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng. Her strength might be even stronger than Purple Lightning. Lin Feng walked towards the two women who were staring at him in shock and nodded with a smile. He naturally knew why they were shocked. It was because Aurora was in the Silver Ancestral Land. In the eyes of the River Yao clan, the one to advance would definitely be Aurora. At the very least, it would be Heart Closing Sword, who was ranked third among the 10 strongest. It would never be his turn to advance. Whoosh! Eldest Princess Tang Luan's eyes flashed, but she didn't say anything. Violet Electric flashed past like a bolt of lightning. She appeared in front of Lin Feng with a faint smile, wearing a set of light purple soft armor and a light red ribbon around her slender waist. Hello. Hello. Lin Feng replied with a smile. I remember your name is Tang Feng, right? Violet Electric's voice was soft and pleasant. Lin Feng nodded. Ever since he killed the Black Worm, his name had spread. Aurora should be in the Silver Ancestral Land, right? Violet Electric looked at Lin Feng curiously. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. The two women came from the Bronze Ancestral Land and had not seen King Yin Wang and Aurora, so they could easily guess where King Yin Wang and Aurora were. Seeing Lin Feng's affirmation, not only was Violet Electric surprised, but even Eldest Princess Tang Luan's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of light. So, Aurora was really eliminated? Aurora didn't advance. Violet Electric smiled and shook her head gently. In her opinion, this was extremely inconceivable. In terms of strength and intelligence, Aurora Polaris was one of the best in the River Demon clan. As the one with the strongest comprehensive strength among the three strongest, he had passed through the first 3 checkpoints like walking on flat ground. He was almost the first one to pass through them easily. Yet, he was defeated in the land of the Silver Ancestors. It was funny to think about it. She failed at the last step. Lin Feng did not answer Violet Electric. Since she did not ask, he naturally would not tell her that Aurora was dead. After all, he did not know the relationship between Violet Electric and Aurora. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. They did not talk anymore. Whether it was Violet Electric or Eldest Princess Tang Luan, they did not really take Lin Feng seriously, even if Lin Feng had become the crown prince and advanced from the Silver Ancestral Land. This was a subconscious behavior. After all, Lin Feng was only an immortal chaotic whole. No matter how strong he was, there was a limit to his strength. This could be seen from how Violet Electric did not even ask about Aurora's whereabouts. This was because in her heart, she never thought that Aurora would die in Lin Feng's hands. Subconsciously, she had already rejected this idea. Lin Feng was also happy to have some peace and quiet. He had no friendship with Violet Electric. As for eldest Princess Tang Yuan, needless to say, they were enemies, not friends. He had to preserve his strength and keep a low profile. There's only one left. Lin Feng looked in the direction of the entrance he had come from. Only the crown prince of the golden ancestral land was left. He had come late, but he did not expect that there would be someone even later than him. The golden ancestral land. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He really wanted to know what was there. He knew that it was very likely to be a little stronger than the silver ancestral land. However, Lin Feng did not regret his choice. The help and improvement that the silver ancestral land had brought him this time was enough to satisfy him. The breakthrough of his bloodline alone was worth the trip. There might not be such an opportunity in the golden ancestral land. The best was the one that was suitable for him. After all, there was still a super powerhouse among the contestants there that he was not confident of defeating. King Yinwang, the most outstanding of the three strongest powerhouses, the uncrowned king of the North River Monster Clan. With his strength, he won't die in the golden ancestral land, right? Lin Feng looked forward to meeting King Yinwang and drawing a successful conclusion to his trip to the North River. He waited patiently. Not only Lin Feng, but Violet Electric and Tang Wanfeng were also waiting. With Lin Feng's advancement, the final crown prince would be decided. Once the fourth crown prince appeared, the battle for the North River King would officially begin. Although they did not wish for King Yinwang to advance, they knew that it was impossible. If even King Yinwang could not advance, who else could? He was the strongest powerhouse in the North River. Day after day, after waiting for a few days, Lin Feng began to concentrate on his cultivation. Before the outbreak of the war, every bit of strength counted. There was no need to wait here. In any case, even if everyone was here, he would not be left behind in the final battle. Compared to the Silver Plateau continent, the energy and elemental laws here were in a normal state. The North Palace was where the real river was located. It was also the source of the North River. Therefore, the spirit energy here was denser and more abundant. Lin Feng was comprehending the laws of the earth. He forcefully comprehended the sixth and final law of the earth. Once he succeeded, his law of the earth would enter a new level. Every single law of the earth would reach the pinnacle. The increase in strength would be hard to estimate. A slight fusion of 5 Daos of the earth was already very powerful. If all 6 Daos of the earth could be fused together, I'm looking forward to it. Lin Feng was in a corner outside the Northern Palace Hall, cultivating by himself. This time, he did not have to wait for long. Not long after, the entrance to the North Hall opened again. Golden light enveloped the North Hall. The ascended crown prince from the land of the golden ancestors had finally arrived. What? Violet Electric and eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng widened their eyes in shock. Lin Feng looked over and was also startled. It couldn't be, right? For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1606. The one who appeared in front of him was not King Yinwang, but a member of the River Yao clan that Lin Feng was very familiar with. Zhe, dressed in white with a smile on his face. Zhe's appearance not only shocked Violet Electric and the first princess, but even Lin Feng was shocked. Although he knew that Zhe's aptitude and potential were good, and that he was one of the best in the River Yao clan, he never thought that he could become the crown prince and advance to the last checkpoint. But the affairs of the world were just so wonderful. Oh, Lin Feng looked at Zhe. The feeling he gave him was different, as if there was something more. A terrifying aura faintly condensed behind him, and his aura was incomparably majestic. Advanced to the top of the Black Region Master. Lin Feng's heart shook. Zhe's strength seemed to have jumped 3 levels, jumping to such a terrifying level all of a sudden. Violet Electric looked at Zhe with a complicated gaze, and only said this after a long time. The clan's talent is indeed powerful. Talent? Lin Feng's heart trembled. You're overpraising me, Zhe replied with a faint smile. Although Violet Electric was one of the 3 strongest experts, Zhe did not seem to be cautious or afraid of her. Everything was so natural, as if they were equal existences, and even disdainful. Brother Tang. Zay walked towards Lin Feng. "Brother Zay," Lin Feng greeted. "How have you been?" Zay stood 10 meters in front of Lin Feng and said calmly. Although there was a smile on his face, there was not much emotion in it. "Yes, how have you been?" Lin Feng sighed. Seeing Zay again, the feeling was completely different. There was less familiarity and more distance. "I knew that Brother Tang would definitely advance, and it was as expected." Zay smiled slightly, his eyebrows slightly raised, and said, "I hope Brother Tang will have good luck in the final battle for the North River King." "And I hope so." Lin Feng looked straight at Zay and replied. He was no longer the Zay he knew before. Now, not only had he become stronger, even his personality had changed. Even though he was smiling at her, there was less sincerity in his smile, more courtesy, more indifference. Dang! Suddenly, the sound of a heavy bell rang out. The entire world seemed to be shaking. Energy ripples spread out in waves. A turbulent aura surged, enveloping the entire sky. Zay, the eldest princess, and Violet Electric instantly focused and looked straight at the ripples. That gloomy and cold river of wheels. The river surged, revealing an imposing old figure. At this moment, he was like the master of the river, a monarch overlooking the world. His eyes flashed with a burning light, and his voice was as heavy as a bell. "Go, crown princes. Enter the river of fate and decide your fate. Remember, there is only one North River King. If you want to come out alive, you have to either become the North River King or submit to the North River King." It was magnificent and majestic. Tangji suddenly let out a wild roar. His body suddenly expanded, and in an instant, he became incomparably ferocious. All of his power condensed at one point, and with a violent explosion, he turned into ashes. Lin Feng's eyes widened, almost suffocating. North River King Tang Ji had died, just like that? Hua! Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up. At the center of Tang Ji's explosion, there was an extremely bright black pearl. It seemed to be motionless, but in fact, it was rotating at an extremely fast speed. As the black orb spun, the airflow and energy generated by Tang Ji's explosion formed many cyclones and gathered together. It was like a star. "So it's here." Eldest Princess Tang Wan's phoenix eyes widened, and her aura erupted. This was what she had been looking for. At this moment, she knew that it was in Tang Ji's body. "King's Pearl," Zay muttered. Eldest Princess Tang Wan had already taken action, and her strength was also at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. She wasn't any weaker than Aurora. Especially her explosive power, it was even better. Shio! Violet Electric wasn't slow either, and went straight for the King's Pearl. The battle for the North River King instantly became intense. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, but he didn't participate in the battle. He just quietly watched. The situation in front of him was too complicated. Moreover, he needed time to digest what had happened. He believed that the battle for the North River King wasn't something that could be done overnight. Even if he had the upper hand now, it didn't mean that there would be any benefits. Moreover, Violet Electric aside, he still couldn't see through eldest Princess Zhe He's strength. Bang! The King's Pearl fell into the River of Destiny. Even Tang Wan Feng, who had the fastest reaction, couldn't make in time. Tang Wan Feng snorted in annoyance. Her phoenix eyes became even brighter, and she followed the King's Pearl into the River of Destiny. "I'm afraid that this isn't her full strength." Lin Feng looked at eldest Princess Tang Wan Feng. Every princess was carefully nurtured by Tang Ji to become his successor. Their talent was the best in the North River. Lin Feng wasn't surprised that eldest Princess Tang Wan Feng had such strength. The more strength one had, the more ambition they had. She dared to rebel, which meant that her strength had already surpassed the North River King Tang Ji. Tang Ji, who is known as one of the North River's 4 great monster emperors, was at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. How could the eldest princess be weak? After going through the 4 trials, Violet Electric and Aurora's strength both increased. The eldest princess' talent is even better, so it's natural that she'll increase as well. Lin Feng thought. His gaze fell on the surging river. At this moment, Violet Electric had already followed eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng into it. Although Violet Electric was also at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm, her strength was clearly inferior to eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's. I've heard that her intelligence is outstanding. As a member of the North River Yao clan, it's rare to see someone like her. Lin Feng was well aware of the outside world evaluation of Violet Electric. She was a woman with both intelligence and beauty, but her strength was her weakest link. Even so, she was already at the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. To become the new North River King, strength wasn't necessarily the deciding factor. Especially in the River of Destiny, there were many variables. The weak could very well become the strong. For example, Zhe. Lin Feng looked at Zhe, who had stumbled all the way here with him. He was very curious about the talent of the clan that Violet Electric spoke of. This was the fundamental reason for Zhe's transformation. He admitted it himself. How did he defeat King Yanwan? Lin Feng looked at Zhe. The latter muttered to himself with a solemn expression. He didn't even look at Lin Feng as he entered the River of Destiny. Here, everyone only had one goal, and that was to become the North River King. There was no need to talk about feelings. Zhe's current strength is probably comparable to eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's. Lin Feng's eyes moved slightly. He stood on the River of Destiny and looked down. The smoke of the final battle had already been ignited. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1607. Enter the River of Fate and decide your fate. If you want to come out alive, you either become the king of Beichan River or submit to the king of Beichan River. Therefore, there are only two outcomes. Lin Feng carefully thought over the last words of the king of Beichan River, Tang Ji. Although he didn't know how to become the king of Beichan River, everyone was fighting for the king's pearl. He didn't know, but eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng definitely knew. Wasn't she scheming to become the king of Beichan River? Moreover, as the eldest princess, she definitely knew the most accurate. King's Pearl. Lin Feng pondered deeply for a moment before he made a decision in his heart, and then he leaped into the surging River of Destiny. His fate wouldn't be decided by the River of Fate. It would be decided by himself. What pure and dense energy of Beichan River. Lin Feng's heart trembled as he frowned slightly. As soon as he entered, he felt the surging energy of Beichan River. Fighting here was extremely disadvantageous for him because the eldest princess, Violet Electric, and Yanzhe were true members of the Beichan River clan. They could absorb the energy of Beichan River to increase their strength, but he couldn't. With the help of the geographical advantage, although he wouldn't be weakened, their strength would increase by varying degrees. This place is like the source of Beichan River. Lin Feng remained calm and didn't lose his composure because of this small factor. So what if he had the geographical advantage? He wasn't like the winged clan who relied on spatial energy and couldn't display his strength here. Even if their strength increases, as long as they don't surpass the peak of the Black Region Master Realm, I might not lose to them. After the trip to the Silver Ancestors' land, Lin Feng's current strength was at the peak of the peak, unless one of them reached the peak of the Master of the Black Region. Otherwise, the outcome was still unknown. Speeding through the River of Fate, Lin Feng didn't feel any discomfort. Basically, this place was very similar to Beichan River. After living in Beichan River for so long, he had already adapted to the environment. The King's Pearl left by itself. Where did it go? Lin Feng was very curious. It wasn't hard to find the King's Pearl. He just needed to follow eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's footsteps. The River of Fate's aura was still present. The eldest princess and Tang Wanfeng were going against the flow of the River of Fate. Whoosh! Lin Feng chased after him. The River of Fate. What a powerful pressure. Lin Feng frowned. After traveling through the River of Destiny for a while, he realized that it was easy to enter but difficult to leave. Aside from the pure energy of the Chan River, the River of Destiny also had a unique law. It was a rule that was above the natural order. He was unable to leave the River of Fate. Unless one was strong enough to break the rules of the River of Fate, the only way to leave was as Tang Ji, the king of the Beichan River, had said. Or, He could become the king of the Beichan River, or submit to the king of the Beichan River. Looks like we've been forced into a corner, Lin Feng said helplessly. Even if he didn't want to fight for the position of king of Beichan River, he didn't have a choice. While he was pondering, a river monster suddenly launched a sneak attack from below. It had a pointy head, rat-like eyes, fat ears, and scaly skin. Its pair of dark green eyes were extremely terrifying. At the very least, the demons of Chan River looked more normal. The river monsters here looked weirder and uglier than the other. Light-colored scaly armor. Lin Feng had seen it long ago. The strength of a river monster was very easy to distinguish. Just by looking at the color of their scaly armor, one could tell how strong they were. The darker the scaly armor, the deeper they came from and the stronger they were. The strongest river monster he had encountered had scaly armor that was half dark and half light. It was about the level of an ordinary black domain master. Boom! Without any effort, Lin Feng killed the river monster with light-colored scaly armor. Its strength was only at the level of an ordinary black domain master. It was one of the weakest in the River of Fate. The River of Fate is indeed the River of Fate. Even the weakest river monster is a black domain master. Lin Feng didn't dare to go too deep. After all, he still couldn't understand the River of Fate, so he had to be careful. Previously, he had followed the first princess group, but he had lost them not long after. Because he had encountered a strange water flow split, his aura had completely disappeared. Not only were the laws of the River of Fate strange, but they were also very restrictive. After the connection was severed once, it would be difficult to connect again. Although he had tried to find them, whether it was in the Chan River or the River of Fate, he was not as free as the real Chan River Monster clan. Lin Feng didn't mind losing contact. When it was time to meet, he would meet them sooner or later. Moreover, it might not be good to be with them, especially the first Princess Tang Luanfeng and Violet Electric. They seemed to ignore each other, but in reality, no one knew what the relationship between them was. The two of them were the first to come out. There's a lot of time to discuss and communicate. The more you avoid, the more complicated it is. Lin Feng had reservations about the two girls. Putting himself in their shoes, they came from the weakest bronze and fine iron ancestral lands. King Yin Wang and Aurora had not appeared. What would he do? The answer was obvious. With the first Princess Tang Luanfeng's shrewdness, and with Violet Electric's intelligence and scheming, they would most likely work together to get what they wanted. As for Yuan Shi'ais, Lin Feng did not think that the current Yuan Shi'ais would work with him and listen to him. He had changed. He had changed a lot, and not just in strength. The current Yuan Shi'ais exuded a faint arrogance and disdain. Based on his understanding of Yuan Shi'ais, he would not be like this unless his strength had reached a terrifying level. In essence, Yuan Shi'ais was a Chan River Monster Clan member who was very good at enduring. His arrogance, wanton, and brashness came from his current strength and absolute confidence. Yuan Shi'ais indeed had the right to be arrogant. Against the three of them, if he was not careful, he would probably be attacked from both sides. After all, he was the weakest on paper. Whether it was Yuan Shi'ais or First Princess Violet Electric, eliminating him would not only eliminate one competitor, but also many variables. It's not bad to split up temporarily. Let them fight to the death first. Lin Feng smiled. He did not believe that Wang Zhu could be obtained so easily. The decision of the king of the Northern Chan River was simple. From the previous 3 checkpoints and the first half of the 4th checkpoint, this would be a long battle of wits and courage. It would not be decided in a short period of time. The key now is how to become the king of the Northern Chan River, Lin Feng thought. From beginning to end, Tang Ji had not mentioned anything. There were no clues in his 3 sentences. The only clue was that Wang Zhu. But now, its whereabouts were unknown. Follow the original plan and go against the flow. Let's see what's at the end. Lin Feng rushed forward. Chapter 1608. Pung, pung, pung. Along the way, Lin Feng killed one river monster after another. Every river monster had the light of the Chan River, which was very similar to the Chan River monsters. However, the light of the river monsters was purer and contained a different kind of energy. I'll call it destiny energy for now. Lin Feng had tried to absorb it, but it was useless. This energy was either too special or useless, or his current realm was too low and his knowledge was too shallow. Although the light of the Chan River here was comparable to the light of the Chan River in the Chan World Tower, he didn't need it. It was of great help to his main body, but it was of little use to the Tyrant Dragon clone. Even if there was a light of the Chan River that contained the sixth Tao of the earth, he didn't have the time to absorb it, let alone fuse with the sixth Tao of the earth. Before the situation was clear, time was very important. If he was a step slower, the king of the Chan River would be decided. At that time, all his paths would be sealed. This was because the law of destiny in the River of Destiny was very strong. With his current strength, he couldn't resist it. He fought as he traveled. Lin Feng wasn't alone. Just like the Chan River, the River of Destiny gave birth to many life forms. However, most of the life forms here only had instinctive consciousness and no intelligence. Although the river monsters attacked actively, they were driven by their instincts. Protect the River of Destiny, or unconditionally kill all the Chan River monsters. Lin Feng didn't know, but it didn't matter. He could fight and harvest. It couldn't be better. He didn't need the special light of the Chan River now, but he could give them all to his main body in the future. As long as he had enough time, his main body strength would increase greatly. Although it couldn't surpass the Tyrant Dragon clone, it could at least catch up to him and reach the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. After traveling for dozens of days, there were still no changes. Lin Feng was also very calm. Every day, he would go against the flow and head in the same direction, killing some river monsters that overestimated themselves. The battle for the king of the Chan River, which had just begun, seemed to have nothing to do with him. Lin Feng was waiting, patiently waiting for the real battle to begin. However, just because Lin Feng didn't act didn't mean that the other three wouldn't. In fact, not long after Lin Feng fell behind, Ming Zhe and the first princess, Tang Luanfeng, had a small encounter. Both sides did not use their strongest battle strength because neither side could grasp the other. This time, there were 4 crown princes competing for the position of king of the North Chan River. Ming Zhe and the first princess did not dare to easily reveal their trump cards, and were even more unwilling to suffer a great loss right from the start and let the other 2 reap the benefits. After a few exchanges, Ming Zhe and the first princess, who both had their own ulterior motives, stopped fighting. Don't you think what we're doing is very stupid? Eldest Princess Tang Luanfeng looked at Yuan Shi eyes, her head held high like a proud phoenix. Then what do you think we should do? Yanzhe maintained his faint smile. You definitely know more about the River of Fate than I do. If I don't stop you, where will I find Wang Zhu? Tang Luanfeng glanced at Ming Zhe contemptuously. Believe it or not, I don't know where Wang Zhu is. Ming Zhe shrugged. So, Tang Luanfeng said, you and I are clearly stronger than Violet Electric and Tang Feng, but they also have a chance to compete for the position of king of the North Chan River. Don't you think this is very unfair to us? Ming Zhe chuckled. The first princess is truly the first princess. You're really resourceful. Tang Luanfeng glanced to the side. You've devoured King Yanwang, so you should be even stronger than King Yanwang at his peak. The Ming clan's talent is truly amazing. Ming Zhe said, no need for pleasantries. What do you want to do? Tang Luanfeng extended her right hand and gestured with her hand like a knife. I'll kill Violet Electric, and you kill Tang Feng. After that, we'll compete on our own and swear an oath. Whoever becomes the king of the North Chan River will have to submit to the other. Ming Zhe smiled in surprise. Don't you have an agreement with Violet Electric? Tang Luanfeng said, it's just a union of interests. I'll make the decision when it's time. Ming Zhe clapped his hands and smiled. The first princess is really unconventional. I'm impressed. Tang Luanfeng slanted her eyebrows and said mockingly, you won't be soft-hearted and not want to fight, right? Ming Zhe smiled. How can that be? We'll do as the first princess says. The 2 experts hit it off like 2 foxes working together, but each had their own ulterior motives. Splash, pop, gotcha. The rolling river of fate was cut off again. Both the aura and energy disappeared at this moment. However, it returned to its original state in an instant. It was like a dream. Again, Lin Feng frowned slightly. This was the second time the river had been cut off. It had been more than 100 days. Is there a reason for this cutoff? Or is there some secret? There must be a reason for this abnormality. Lin Feng believed that there must be something he didn't know. However, he didn't have any information or clues. He couldn't pry into it just by thinking. He quietly looked at the rolling river. The river of fate, which was covered by the rules, was moving according to a unique pattern. The pure energy of the Chan River made the river of fate powerful and mysterious. After a long time, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to move forward. He felt that the cutting off of the river might have something to do with the King Pearl. It might even be related to the fight for the king of the North Chan River. Any clue would be an important clue. What exactly is it? Lin Feng muttered to himself, his brows furrowed. At this moment, Qi. In the distance, a flash of light shot over like a bolt of lightning. The newcomer was a purple figure. Her voluptuous breasts were hidden behind the purple soft armor. Her eyebrows were slightly raised with a hint of surprise. It was one of the 3 strongest cultivators, Purple Lightning. "I've finally found you, Brother Tang Feng." Violet Electric was overjoyed. At this moment, she looked like a little girl. "You're looking for me?" Lin Feng was surprised. He didn't make a move because he didn't feel Violet Electric's killing intent. "Yes, I've been looking for you for a long time." Violet Electric nodded. Her purple figure appeared in front of Lin Feng. Her beautiful eyes flashed. "There's something you might not know. Yuan Shi'is has teamed up with the first princess." "Oh." Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric. He wanted to see if she was lying. Yuan Shi'is teamed up with the first princess? And then Lin Feng asked. Violet Electric's beautiful eyes flashed. "They've made a clear division of labor. Yuan Shi'is will kill you, and the first princess will kill me. When only the 2 of them are left, they will decide who will be the king of the North Chan River. The other side will submit." Lin Feng nodded. He wasn't surprised by Violet Electric's words. "You'll know whether it's true or not when you meet Yuan Shi'is," Violet Electric said when she saw that Lin Feng wasn't speaking. "I believe you." Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric. Words that were easy to see through usually weren't lies. "What's going on?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "And how did you know?" Chapter 1609. A trace of seriousness flashed across Zidian's beautiful face. She bit her lower lip and said, "Although the first princess and I had a verbal agreement, I know that she is not a kind person. Therefore, I have been holding back." She thought that I didn't know, but I actually knew everything about her conversation with Jing Zhe. Lin Feng nodded. His guess was right. Violet Electric and the first princess were indeed using each other. The 2 women's imaginary enemies weren't him and Jing Zhe, but Aurora and King Yanwang. It was only natural that they would work together. But now that it was him and Jing Zhe, the situation was different. Jing Zhe was good at enduring and scheming. Although he might be as strong as King Yanwang, or even stronger, he had completely different personalities from King Yanwang. As for himself, in the eyes of Violet Electric and the first princess, he was just lucky to break through the encirclement and become the crown prince. "So, you want to work with me?" Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Violet Electric's eyes flashed as she looked straight at Lin Feng. "Although your strength is average, you have a delicate and intelligent heart under that reckless appearance. Anyone who sees you for the first time will be fooled by your appearance." Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. "Thank you for your praise," Violet Electric said. "Although the first princess and Jing Zhe are working together, they are both seeking their own benefits and are wary of each other. If you and I work together, neither the first princess nor Jing Zhe will dare to act rashly." Lin Feng nodded. This was easy to speculate. After all, there was only one king of the Northern Chan River. If he and Violet Electric were alone, they would think that they were fish bellies that could be easily bullied. But together, they were still a bit intimidating. If any one of them attacked, it would be best if they could kill them without suffering any damage. What if they were injured? What if one of them ran away? After all, there was no benefit to killing any one of them here. Seeing Lin Feng nod, Violet Electric continued to persuade him. That way, we'll be able to protect ourselves. Anything is possible in the River of Destiny. As long as we can preserve our lives, we might be able to obtain some unique treasures in the River of Destiny in the future. Unique treasure? Lin Feng asked curiously. Violet Electric nodded. The River of Destiny is the source of the Chan River. Not only does this place nurture the Chan River's energy, it has also condensed all sorts of treasures over the countless years, seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. For example, even the most ordinary coral of fate possesses a vast amount of energy from the Chan River. For example, if the clam of fate has a rare pearl, it has the effect of reviving the dead. There are countless similar treasures. Legend has it that in the depths of the River of Destiny, there are even treasures of destiny that surpass the level of the master of the dark region. If one can obtain one, they can reverse the situation and become the true king of the North Chan River. Treasure of Destiny. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, an existence that surpassed the level of the Black Region Master. Right now, he had two of them. One was the beast-taming bead necklace, and the other was the 10,000 origin mustard stone, which was even stronger than a treasure. So, there are treasures in the depths of the River of Destiny. Lin Feng looked down, his heart moved. Violet Electric's beautiful eyes flashed, as if she could see Lin Feng's thoughts. The River of Destiny is not only the source of the North Chan River, but also the source of the other three Chan Rivers. It is located at the intersection of the four Chan Rivers. Our current location has yet to reach the true intersection. When we reach the intersection, the energy will skyrocket. That area is the true center of the Chan River, where the boundless energy and treasures of the Chan River gather. The reason why the Wing Clan does not dare to deal with us is because of the River of Destiny. As long as the River of Destiny does not dry up, our Chan River Yao Clan will not go extinct. Lin Feng immediately understood. After pondering for a moment, Lin Feng said, "So, the King Pearls are heading to the intersection?" Violet Electric nodded. "Yes, there are 4 King Pearls. Each Chan River King has one. The energy contained within is enough to allow any Chan River Yao clan member to be reborn and obtain powerful energy." If Violet Electric's beautiful eyes flashed as she smiled. "If we can obtain them, we will no longer need to fear the first princess and Kuze." Lin Feng smiled. How could he not know what Violet Electric was planning? She was indeed very smart and knew how to scheme. If his strength was really as she said, there was no reason for him to refuse to form an alliance with her. However, he was used by her, and she even kicked him away after she had used him. At best, she only treated him as a talisman, a useful chess piece. Us? Lin Feng smiled faintly. Yes, our strength will greatly increase if we work together. In the future, we will split up and eliminate the first princess and Kuze. Then, we will be able to ascend to the position of king of the North Chan River. Violet Electric's beautiful eyes flashed. "I can swear that you and I will both become kings of the North Chan River. There will be no difference in strength between us." A blush flashed across her beautiful face. Zidian blinked her eyes gently and revealed a smile that was as beautiful as a flower. She said, "If you are willing, when you become the king of the North Chan River, you and I can become husband and wife. We will be united forever." Amazing. A two-pronged strategy, full of wisdom. Lin Feng also admired Violet Electric in his heart. This woman could become one of the 3 strongest experts, but she was not easy to deal with. She had placed herself so low and described the future with such alluring words. Power, benefits, and lust. Every point hit his weak spot, making it impossible for him not to agree. But what would the truth be? As a human, Lin Feng was used to fighting and scheming. What kind of schemes had he not seen before? Normal Chan River Yao clan members might fall for this kind of flattery. For example, Aurora. But to him, it was nonsense. It was a complete mirage. "Sorry, I'm not interested." Lin Feng directly rejected. Violet Electric's beautiful eyes widened. Her red lips parted slightly, but the words she wanted to say were completely choked. She looked at Lin Feng in shock. Not we. I am me, and you are you. Lin Feng pointed his finger. You. Violet Electric was so angry that her face turned red. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Violet Electric stomped her foot and bit her lips until they turned white. How can you be so ungrateful? Do you know how dangerous our situation is? Kuze and the first princess could appear at any time. Lin Feng raised his hand and interrupted her. Looking at Violet Electric, Lin Feng slowly said, "The one in danger is you, not me." Lin Feng smiled slightly and said to Violet Electric, "No matter what, thank you for telling me so much. It's very helpful." Violet Electric was so angry that her face turned white. She gritted her teeth and said, "You will regret this." Lin Feng smiled and said, "Why don't you consider my proposal?" "Your proposal?" Violet Electric's beautiful eyes flashed. She thought that Lin Feng had thought it through. Her beautiful face revealed a hint of joy. "What do you want? Just say it. If I can satisfy it, I will definitely. We can work together, but you have to listen to me and respect me." Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric's ugly expression and smiled faintly. "Simply put, you have to submit to me." Chapter 16:10. What? Violet Electric's eyes widened, and her face instantly flushed red as if she was drunk. Submit to him? What a joke. I'll kill you. Violet Electric's entire body released electricity like lightning, and her almond-shaped eyes were frosty. She raised her hand and blasted a bolt of lightning at Lin Feng. It was extremely fast, but Lin Feng seemed to have guessed it and casually blocked it. Whoosh! Violet Electric's expression changed slightly. She stared at Lin Feng's eyes with a hint of sharpness. Just as she was about to attack again, Lin Feng suddenly said, "I advise you to save your strength. Otherwise, you won't have the strength to fight later." What did he mean? Violet Electric's eyes were filled with anger as she looked at Lin Feng in confusion. Suddenly, her rosy face paled, and Violet Electric revealed a panicked expression. She instantly turned into a bolt of purple lightning and fled. Whoosh! Violet Electric was extremely fast, but the white light behind her was even faster. She wore a phoenix crown and a robe, and her every movement exuded the noble aura of a queen, as if she controlled the world. The newcomer was the first princess, Tang Wanfen. Clearly, she was stronger than Violet Electric. Lin Feng wasn't the only one who knew this, and Violet Electric was even more clear about this. Thus, when she sensed the first princess's aura, she didn't hesitate to flee. But could she escape? There's a good show to watch. Lin Feng unhurriedly followed. He naturally didn't have the slightest bit of tenderness or kindness. This was a battlefield. 4 armies were piled up, and there was only one winner. The rest would either die or be captured. Lin Feng didn't want to be the one to be captured. Previously, he couldn't find a first princess, Tang Wanfen. Now that he finally encountered her alone, if he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when the next time would be. The battle between the two women was intense and varied. Violet Electric was not as weak as he had imagined. Although she was not as strong as the first princess, she knew how to play to her advantage. Moreover, she had a peak chaos profound treasure that allowed her to conceal herself from time to time. Although the Tao of Lightning wasn't as fast as light, it was still quite outstanding in terms of explosiveness and dodging over short distances. She seemed anxious, but in Lin Feng's eyes, that was not the case. The first princess is still holding back, but Violet Electric is already going all out. Lin Feng was very clear that first Princess Tang Wanfeng's strength was, as he had expected, unfathomable. Violet Electric's strength was actually very strong and was at the peak of the Black Domain Master Realm, but compared to first Princess Tang Wanfeng, the difference was more than one level. The reason why the first princess hadn't killed her was that she was afraid of Violet Electric's dying counterattack. Although it wouldn't kill her, it wouldn't be worth it for her to be injured. It's like a hunter catching his prey, slowly exhausting its strength before finally capturing it. Lin Feng was clear. Violet Electric knew this as well, but there was nothing she could do about it. Intelligence was important, but strength was even more important. In front of absolute strength, any schemes would lose their luster. If his guess wasn't wrong, Violet Electric would soon have to escape, because if she didn't escape, she wouldn't have any chance. The final result was already obvious. Only by escaping would she have a chance at survival. As one of the three strongest experts, she must have experienced many life and death situations. With Violet Electric's intelligence, there's no reason for her not to leave a way out for herself, Lin Feng thought. He believed that Violet Electric definitely had a life-saving trump card. Sure enough, chi. Bolts of lightning danced wildly around Purple Bolt's body. Strands of light transformed into starlight and shot out explosively. Purple Bolt's chest flashed with a bright light. It was a Chaos Cave profound treasure, but its grade was unknown. But there was no doubt that this was a life-saving treasure. It seems that I can only use it once. Lin Feng sensed that the treasure on Violet Electric's chest was erupting with energy that exceeded that of an ordinary chaos whole profound treasure. In the next moment, the first princess's bright red eyelids opened, and her eyes lit up. Whoosh, an enormous aura enveloped the area. It was a giant that was so tall that it could pierce the heavens. Its bronze skin carried a valiant power, and it looked like a deity. Its upper body and feet were bare, and it held a large golden net in its hands. No! Violet Electric was horrified, and her eyes were bloodshot. Whoosh! The barefooted giant cast the golden net, which seemed to envelop the entire land. No matter how Violet Electric struggled, she was like a small fish that couldn't escape from the golden net. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. As the first princess, Tang Wanfeng indeed had many treasures. If it were him, he might not be able to dodge the golden net cast by the barefooted giant. If he were to fight the first princess directly, he would probably be in trouble. Lin Feng sighed inwardly. At that moment, Violet Electric's electric force was vigorous and spread out, but it was completely absorbed by the golden net. It was useless. The more she struggled, the tighter the golden net became. It was like a leech that clung to Violet Electric's body. Retract. First Princess Tang Wanfeng's lips curled coldly. The barefooted giant's mountain-sized arm retracted. In a split second, the golden net was retracted with a clatter. The barefoot giant howled at the sky as if it had caught its prey. It was very happy as it tightened the golden net. Purple Lightning's face was pale and deathly still. She had lost. Not only had she lost, but she had lost miserably. She knew that she was lacking and that she was not as strong as the first princess, but she still wanted to try. She also wanted to become the king of the North Chan River. She wanted to use her wisdom to help the North Chan River and strengthen it. She wanted to make the North Chan River no longer the weakest of the four Chan rivers. But now it was all gone. Not only had she been defeated by the first princess, but she had also been captured alive. She knew the first princess's temperament. Even if she was willing to submit, the first princess would not care. This was a proud and ambitious woman, a true heroine. As a woman, Violet Electric admired the first princess very much. But as an opponent, Violet Electric closed her eyes. Tears slid down from the corners of her eyes. She was not afraid of death. She was just regretful that she could not fulfill her wish. She clenched her fists tightly. Blue veins bulged as she trembled. Violet Electric's full breasts heaved up and down. Suddenly, patter! Chi! A flash of light fell, accompanied by a violent collision that shook the heavens and the earth. Violet Electric felt her body become light. It was as if she was falling from a high altitude, but she was caught in an instant. Violet Electric opened her eyes and saw a familiar figure. Her beautiful eyes widened in shock. It was him. Why did he save her? Violet Electric was not the only one who was shocked. The first princess, Tang Wanfeng, also did not expect this. She had noticed Lin Feng long ago, but she did not think much of him, especially when Lin Feng had been standing to the side without any reaction. Who would have thought? You're courting death. The first princess, Tang Wanfeng, had a murderous look in her eyes. Just now, when the barefoot giant was pulling in the net, Lin Feng's attack went straight for the barefoot giant's majestic right hand, causing it to let go in pain. At this moment, Lin Feng held the golden net in his hand and smiled at the first princess, Tang Wanfeng. Now she's mine. Chapter 16:11. Ash slave, kill him. Eldest princess Tang Wanfeng shouted. Roar. In an instant, the barefooted giant that was baring its teeth earlier roared at the sky. Its body shook violently as it stared at Lin Feng with a murderous look in its eyes. It still remembered how it was attacked by Lin Feng earlier. Now that it received the eldest princess order, it roared and threw a punch at Lin Feng with its iron fists. Lin Feng looked calm. A ray of light flashed in his hand, and a green-black majestic demon appeared in an instant. Its feet were shackled, and although one of its two giant horns was broken, it did not diminish its majesty. With a roar, it attacked the barefooted giant. Uridine. It was the first slave that Lin Feng took in at the Silver Ancestors' land. Abyss Demon. The eldest princess's eyes widened in shock. Before she could react, another light flashed in Lin Feng's hand. This time, the giant figure that appeared was blood red. It did not have a single strand of hair on its head. Its arms were as thick as iron pillars, and its blood-red meridians were bulging. Golden Flame, Old Demon. Roar. Golden Flame, Old Demon attacked the eldest princess as soon as he appeared. The situation was reversed in an instant. Violet Electric, who was firmly locked in the golden net, was stunned. Her beautiful eyes were wide open, and she could not believe what she was seeing. Everything that happened was too sudden and unexpected. She was saved by Lin Feng? What do you think? Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric. Think? Violet Electric was confused. She did not know what Lin Feng was talking about. She asked subconsciously, what? Submit to me, and I will let you out, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric pursed her red lips and frowned. She snorted with disdain. Stop dreaming. You want me, Violet Electric, to submit to you? What give you the right? Because I saved your life, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric sneered. If you're saving me to make me submit to you, you don't have to. I'd rather submit to the first princess than to you. In terms of strength, courage, and strategy, which one of them are you better than the first princess? Strength, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric smiled and turned her head away. What if I defeat the first princess? Lin Feng asked. Violet Electric's beautiful eyebrows slanted. If you have the ability, then rely on yourself. You can talk after you've won. Rely on himself? Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Violet Electric was mocking him for not relying on his own strength. Lin Feng rather admired Violet Electric. At the very least, she was more genuine than Ming Zhe and the first princess. If he could make her submit, it would be of great help to him. It was just that Violet Electric seemed very arrogant. It was no wonder she was so arrogant. She was one of the 3 strongest experts of the North Sea River, and her intelligence surpassed that of the North Sea River. She indeed had the qualifications to be arrogant. More importantly, he was only an immortal chaos hole. How could he make an expert who had advanced to the peak of the Black Region Master submit to an immortal chaos hole? Wait here, Lin Feng said indifferently. His figure flashed, and he instantly went to the first princess. Even if Violet Electric hadn't said anything, he would have met the first princess today. If he had the chance, he wouldn't show any mercy. This was the River of Fate, the place where one's fate was decided. Lin Feng would never allow himself to submit to the other monster race members of the Chang River. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng had long since noticed Lin Feng's participation in the battle. She snorted disdainfully. Although she was shocked by the appearance of 2 abyssal demons, she still didn't place Lin Feng in her eyes. How strong could an immortal chaos hole be? But she was wrong. The terrifying saber force instantly attacked. What? Tang Wanfeng's expression changed greatly. The incoming blade energy seemed to be able to cut through space. It had an indomitable momentum, and the surging power and momentum caused her to turn pale with fright. She was already exhausted from dealing with Fiend Golden Flame. But now, there was Lin Feng. Boom! Lin Feng's first move was the newly created Silver Plateau blade technique. First move, Thorny Stripe. Although he was far away, his blade had already erupted. This move with boundless power displayed his current strength. Although Lin Feng was an immortal chaos hole, he still had the strength to advance to the peak of the Black Region Master Realm. Moreover, he was even stronger. Heavenly Dao Marrow. Tang Wanfeng's expression was extremely ugly. She blocked with her treasured sword and retreated repeatedly, her blood and qi churning. Her strength wasn't weak either. With the Heavenly Dao sword technique and her self-created sword technique, she believed that it would be difficult for her to find a match in the Northern Chang River. Tang Wanfeng was confident that she could even defeat the king of the Northern Chang River, Tang Ji. But this time, she encountered an expert who was truly proficient in the Tao of Strength. PFFF. Tang Wanfeng was forced back by a single move. The phoenix crown on her head had already flown off, revealing the sky full of black hair that resembled numerous green snakes. Tang Wanfeng's eyes trembled, revealing a hint of terrifying green light. Extreme anger. You're courting death. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng roared. Her skin suddenly became snake-like, the green lines twisting and twisting. Her right foot stepped on the void, and the sword in her hand transformed into rays of light. Countless rays of light pierced forward. A sword technique condensed from the Tao of Light was terrifyingly powerful. Circular force quake. Lin Feng used a secret technique of the law to resist, and his tail whipped out fiercely. He naturally wouldn't be careless against the eldest princess. The eldest princess in front of him had already transformed into a half-human, half-monster. However, this was most likely not her full form. Moreover, with her high status, she definitely had many treasures. The barefooted giant whose strength was comparable to Urin's could be seen, as could the golden net that captured Violet Electric. Boom! Boom! The battle between Lin Feng and eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng was earth-shattering and extremely intense. A battle between two peak experts on the verge of advancing to the Black Region Master Realm was rarely seen in the North Chan River. Violet Electric was dumbfounded. She was completely suffocated. She had never imagined that Lin Feng would possess such strength. Not only did he possess two abyssal demon servants, but he also possessed the strength of an immortal chaotic whole. She had never imagined that he would be able to display such terrifying combat strength and even contend with the eldest princess. The eldest princess had already erupted with a portion of her bloodline power. However, she still didn't have the slightest advantage. How could he be so powerful? Impossible. Violet Electric's lips were slightly purple, and her face was pale. As she watched the battle between the two powerhouses, her heart seemed to stop for a moment. It was too exciting. Both of them were stronger than her, and not just by a single level. Thinking back to what Lin Feng had said about wanting to use him, Violet Electric felt her cheeks heat up. The difference in strength between her and Lin Feng was too great. Lin Feng didn't need to join forces with her because he could contend against Feng Zhe and the eldest princess himself. Clenching her teeth, Violet Electric's face flushed red. Was she really going to submit to him? She, Violet Electric, was one of the three strongest powerhouses of the North Chan River. She was the smartest member of the North Chan River Yao clan. But now, she was already a prisoner. Is being smart useful? Violet Electric smiled expressionlessly, deeply mocking herself. In this world where strength was respected, power, treasures, and wisdom were all empty. Only strength was the most important. Once defeated, it would be difficult to make a comeback. There were only two paths waiting for her. Either she died or submit. I can't accept this. Violet Electric clenched her fists, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Chapter 16:12. She couldn't change anything even if she was unwilling. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, there was no medicine for regret. Violet Electric was like a fish on a chopping board. She had lost the right to choose. At this moment, the battle between Lin Feng and the eldest princess was extremely intense. Lin Feng had the absolute advantage in terms of strength and physique. However, Tang Wanfeng had the advantage in terms of laws, heavenly Tao, treasures, and most importantly, This was the River of Destiny, the source of the Chan River. The Chan River's light was amplified to the maximum here, and so was her life force. The amplification of the geographical advantage was quite terrifying. Otherwise, even if Tang Luanfeng used her full strength, she might not be able to contend with Lin Feng. When did such an expert appear in the North Chan River? A mere chaotic whole immortal is so terrifying. If I become the master of Black Region in the future, the eyes of the eldest princess, Tang Luan, were filled with killing intent. If she didn't get rid of this kid, there would be endless trouble in the future. Lin Feng made her feel deeply threatened. She definitely wouldn't allow anyone to threaten her, not even if they had to submit. Only death was the safest option. Tang Luanfeng's veins bulged as her face contorted. The Chan River's light in her body shone to the maximum. The two Chan River's light merged, triggering the tyrannical bloodline in her body. Her originally beautiful body instantly shrank to the size of a skeleton. Tang Luanfeng's face also sharpened like a snake's head. The most frightening thing was that her green eyes were emitting a chilling, killing intent. Like a snake, every strand of her hair emitted Tang Luanfeng's terrifying killing intent and aura. After fully activating her bloodline, her body was much stronger in all aspects than before. The only flaw was too ugly. Therefore, Tang Luanfeng didn't want to use her full strength unless she had no other choice. But now, if she didn't do this, she wouldn't be able to kill Lin Feng. Finally, you're willing to reveal your true body? Lin Feng's lips curled into a faint smile. Facing Tang Luanfeng's attack, Lin Feng condensed his strength to the extreme. The peak chaotic hole profound treasure, myriad tooth blade, which he hadn't used yet, revealed its extraordinary power. He hadn't used it before because there was no need. But now, he had been waiting for a long time. 10,000 fangs. Lin Feng shone brightly as his peak chaos hole profound treasure, the 10,000 tooth blade, erupted with extreme power. He had cultivated the 10,000 tooth blade to its limits for 10,000 years in the alternate dimension of the World Tower. This was an absolute offensive treasure that could be split or combined. The first princess went all out in her attack. The stronger the attack, the weaker the defense. While Lin Feng unleashed his myriad tooth blade attack, his other peak chaos mystic treasure, the mystic ink cloak, also emitted light. If he wanted to defeat Tang Luanfeng, he would have done so long ago. But it was useless. What he wanted was to kill the eldest princess, Tang Luanfeng, even if he had to pay the price of getting injured. You're courting death. The first princess, Tang Luanfeng, was like a green snake, biting towards Lin Feng. The dark cloak of mystic Yin came in contact with the sword in her hand. Rays of green light pierced through Lin Feng's body like snakes, riddling him with holes. While the absolute defense of the black Yin cloak was strong, it was unable to withstand everything. However, it was enough for Lin Feng. Tang Luanfeng's smile only lasted for a moment before it turned into horror. Boom! Lin Feng's attack followed closely behind and arrived. The realm of the heavenly way marrow was extremely powerful. The injured Lin Feng unleashed the essence of his strength to the extreme. It was as if there were many thistles and thorns in front of him. Every saber strike carried a strong saber will. 50% heavenly Dao marrow realm. It completely suppressed Tang Luanfeng's first ascent of the heavenly Dao. Tang Luanfeng roared as the red robe on her body emitted a dazzling light, transforming into a red spiral that protected her firmly. In terms of treasures, Tang Luanfeng had more than Lin Feng and was also stronger. However, she had miscalculated. Boom! Lin Feng's saber art was too terrifying. The second move of the Silver Plateau saber art, Thorn Slash. Although the Red Plateau robe blocked most of the power, a small portion still seeped into the first princess's body. The momentum was especially difficult to offset. Now, Lin Feng's strength was terrifying. Tang Luanfeng spat out blood and retreated. His green eyes suddenly widened. The densely packed needle-like 10,000 fangs around him had already pierced over. It was as if 10,000 arrows were piercing his heart. No! Tang Wanfeng's face contorted. At the most critical moment, a crystal necklace hanging on her neck suddenly shattered, and a woman in a white robe appeared, hugging her like a mother. Chi! 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 The 10,000 fangs tore through the red plateau robe's final defense and shattered it. Countless fangs pierced towards Tang Wanfeng. Lin Feng's attack instantly reached its limit. However, the white-robed woman absorbed all of Lin Feng's attack. Her benevolent face was like a mother protecting her child. As the 10,000 fangs pierced through, the white-robed woman's figure gradually faded and disappeared into nothingness. She had lost 2 peak chaos profound treasures in a row. One of them was Tang Wanfeng's ultimate life-saving treasure. No, Tang Wanfeng was hysterical like an enraged lioness. The treasured sword in her hand once again stabbed towards the similarly injured Lin Feng. She had a great advantage, but bang! Golden flames burned above a thick and solid fist. Old Demon Golden Flame had blocked the attack for Lin Feng. His strength wasn't much weaker than Lin Feng's. Previously, when he fought Tang Wanfeng, Old Demon Golden Flame hadn't used his full strength because Lin Feng had instructed him to capture and kill Tang Wanfeng. Now he was going all out. Bang! Tang Wanfeng's face was pale and unsightly. She retreated from Old Demon Golden Flame's attack. Her expression changed again and again, and her eyes were filled with hatred. She wanted nothing more than to swallow Lin Feng and tear him into countless pieces. Tang Feng, I, Tang Wanfeng, swear that I will tear you to pieces. Ah! With a shrill scream, Tang Wanfeng's body was suddenly enveloped in white light. She turned into a meteor and flew away. She was very clear about the current situation. Even if Lin Feng was injured, she couldn't take Lin Feng's life. On the contrary, she, who had lost 2 of her most crucial peak defensive treasures, was as good as being stripped naked. The situation would only get worse from now on. No matter what, Tang Wanfeng remained absolutely calm. On the other side, Violet Electric, who was bound by the golden net, was completely dazed. She originally thought that this was Lin Feng and Tang Wanfeng's limit, but now she knew how wrong she was. Their strength far exceeded hers. Tang Wanfeng's strength was much stronger than she had expected. However, what shocked her the most was that this ordinary-looking Tang Feng in front of her was comparable to Tang Wanfeng's strength at the chaotic immortal level. No, he was so close to killing Tang Wanfeng. Violet Electric was extremely shocked. Not comparable, but superior. Although he didn't kill Tang Wanfeng in the end, it was enough to see Lin Feng's strength. After losing 2 peak defensive chaotic immortal treasures, Tang Wanfeng was like a turtle without a shell. The next time they met, she would definitely lose. Chapter 16:13. What a pity. Although Lin Feng felt that it was a pity, he didn't care too much. It was not easy to kill the eldest princess Tang Wanfeng in this place. Due to the geographical advantage, it was useless to only injure the princess. She had an immortal body and the abundant energy of the Chan River. As long as she was still alive, it was extremely difficult for her to die. Therefore, it was either they didn't fight or they had to kill Tang Wanfeng in one move. It was too difficult. The success rate wasn't very high to begin with. Lin Feng didn't have much hope. He was just giving it a try. Actually, it's already very successful. Lin Feng smiled. He had exchanged injuries for an opportunity to checkmate the princess. At the very least, he had used all his strength. It wasn't his fault that he couldn't kill Princess Tang Wanfeng. Moreover, it wasn't like he didn't gain anything. I lost 2 peak defensive Chaos Star treasures. She'll have to hide when she sees me in the future. The princess had suffered heavy losses in this battle. Lin Feng smiled. His gaze landed on Violet Electric, who was trapped in the golden net, and he raised his eyebrows slightly. Violet Electric immediately reacted. Her beautiful eyes stared at Lin Feng with complicated emotions. The Chan River Demon race valued experts the most. Now, Lin Feng's position in Violet Electric's heart was completely different. He was no longer an ordinary Chaos Whole Immortal. Instead, he was a super expert who could kill Princess Tang Wanfeng. He He was one of the best in North Chan River. Moreover, he was only an immortal chaos whole immortal. His future potential was limitless. It was hard to imagine how much he could grow. However, Violet Electric was unwilling to submit. She knew the consequences of submitting. She would become a slave, a captive, with no freedom or self-respect to speak of. She had seen many examples of people submitting. Some were tortured to death, some were treated as playthings, and some were even. Violet Electric closed her eyes. Her thoughts were in a mess. Lin Feng didn't plan on dealing with Violet Electric. Wu Jin and Fiend Golden Flame had already captured the barefooted giant alive. Although its body was huge and its physical strength was terrifying, its use of strength was very shallow. It only relied on its innate ability to fight. Ayo! Roar! Roar! The barefooted giant kept roaring in a language that Lin Feng couldn't understand. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He pressed his hand on the barefooted giant's head and frowned slightly. Soul contract. Lin Feng was no stranger to it. He knew how to do it as well. However, the T-Rex's soul wasn't strong enough. It wasn't much better than Princess Tang Wanfeng's soul. To break the soul contract with the barefooted giant, the soul had to be much stronger than the princess. Whoosh! Lin Feng's true body appeared. Violet Electric's eyes widened in shock. But after two abyssal demons appeared, it wasn't strange for a human-looking martial artist to appear. To Purple Bolt, this Tang Feng before him had too many secrets hidden on him. Break! Lin Feng's true body directly broke the soul contract with the barefooted giant. To the original body, this was too simple. Their souls weren't even on the same level. The barefooted giant's eyes widened. He was so excited that he started dancing. But after letting out two roars, he suddenly revealed a panicked expression. He bared his teeth like a child and narrowed his eyes with a sad expression. Whoosh! Lin Feng's beast-controlling bead necklace had another colorful bead. Gray Slave. Lin Feng softly muttered, "Ayo, ayo, ayo." The barefooted giant shook his head like a child. He had just escaped from the tiger's den and entered the wolf's den. Lin Feng smiled. Gray Slave's strength wasn't bad. He was about the same as Wu Jin. His potential wasn't bad either. There was still a lot of room for improvement. He was just a little stupid. His personality was simple, just like a child. He was very pure. The reason why Lin Feng accepted him was firstly because of fate. Secondly, his large golden net. Heaven-capturing net. Lin Feng faintly smiled. The name was domineering. This heaven-capturing net was indeed very domineering. Violet Electric wasn't weak. She had reached the peak of the Black Domain master level. Once she cast out the heaven-capturing net, she wouldn't even be able to escape. This has already surpassed the level of a peak, chaos, profound treasure. Lin Feng sighed. Looking at the large golden net, Lin Feng shook his head. He might have picked up a treasure. This was most likely a supreme treasure, an existence on the same level as a destiny treasure. It was even more powerful than a chaos, profound treasure. On the other side, the fleeing eldest princess Tang Wanfeng's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes widened in shock. Her delicate body trembled in disbelief. She had lost her connection with Gray Slave. She had completely lost it. Impossible. How can my soul contract be broken? Impossible. It was no wonder that the eldest princess Tang Wanfeng was so shocked. It was very difficult to break a soul contract. At the very least, one soul had to be much stronger than the person who formed the soul contract. Not to mention the North Chan River, it was impossible for there to be such an anomaly in all the Chan rivers. The Chan River, Yao clan wasn't good at this. This can't be true. The eldest princess Tang Wanfeng was incomparably flustered. She valued Gray Slave very much, not only because of Gray Slave himself, but also because of Gray Slave's heaven-capturing net. This was a supreme treasure that Gray Slave had brought with him. It was comparable to a destiny treasure, but now she had lost all of it. In order to kill Violet Electric, she had suffered a double loss. The eldest princess Tang Wanfeng roared to vent her anger. Her charming face was incomparably sinister. She was so angry that her entire body trembled. Her phoenix crown shook violently. Tang Feng, I won't let you off. The eldest princess Tang Luanfeng was ambitious and had an unyielding fighting spirit. She wasn't willing to fall. Treasures could be obtained again. If she wasn't strong enough, she could cultivate again. Only confidence, she couldn't lose it. Oh, the material of the heaven-capturing net is very special. At this moment, Lin Feng was appreciating the heaven-capturing net. The golden light shone. The heaven-capturing net could be big or small. It could be tens of thousands of feet big or small enough to fit Violet Electric. Between the edges of the net, there was a faint film of light that contained extraordinary energy. At this moment, Violet Electric was tightly bound by the heaven-capturing net. She looked extremely charming, but also extremely pathetic. With this heaven-capturing net, the next time I meet the eldest princess, she could forget about escaping. Lin Feng could not help but smile. If the eldest princess saw a gray slave and the heaven-capturing net, he wondered what kind of expression she would have. With her speed, nomological comprehension, and geographical advantage, if he didn't have any treasures that restricted her movements, it was almost impossible to catch her. Previously, he had a headache, but now it was completely different. The heaven-capturing net had solved all his problems. It wasn't just Tang Luanfeng. If he met other experts that he could kill but couldn't catch up to, he could use the heaven-capturing net to capture them, once and for all. But now, Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric, whose eyes were tightly shut, and asked, "How is it? Have you thought it through?" Chapter 16:14. Violet Electric still had the same expression as before, as if she did not hear anything. However, her long eyelashes were trembling slightly. One could tell that she was having a battle in her heart. Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric and knew what she was thinking. As one of the three strongest, Violet Electric had her pride and self-respect. Submission was not just a matter of words. Basically, submission was only slightly better than a soul contract. However, to an expert, it was also a devastating blow. If it was him, he would not submit even if he died. However, he still hoped that Violet Electric would submit. It was good for her and for him. You have a lot of time to think about it. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He sat down cross-legged and began to recover from his injuries. In the battle with First Princess Tang Luanfeng, his injuries were not light, especially when he took the First Princess attack head-on. There was no hurry. There was plenty of time. As for safety, there was no need to worry. With Wu Jin, Golden Flame Old Demon, and Hui knew it was very safe. Time passed slowly. Huff! Lin Feng exhaled deeply. His injuries were all healed. He opened his eyes and looked at Violet Electric, who was not far away. The latter was looking into the distance. Her gaze was blurred. No one knew what she was thinking. Lin Feng sighed softly in his heart. Although he had not asked, he already knew Violet Electric's answer. Although it might not be the answer he wanted. Her gaze was desolate and deathly still. Her desire to die was very obvious. Have you made your decision? Lin Feng walked towards Violet Electric and stood in front of her. Violet Electric looked straight ahead and said indifferently, "Kill me." Actually, submission is not what you think it is, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric still did not look at Lin Feng. Stop trying to bluff me. I've seen this kind of trick many times. Rather than dying sooner or later, it's better to die now. At least you can leave a good reputation. Lin Feng pursed his lips and frowned. To him, Violet Electric was a very good chess piece, but if she didn't want to, he couldn't force her. Time seemed to have stopped. It was forbidden at this moment. After a long while, Violet Electric glanced at Lin Feng with her beautiful eyes and mocked. "What's wrong? Are you going to have tender feelings for the fair sex?" Lin Feng looked over. Violet Electric raised her head slightly like a proud swan. "If you want to kill me, then kill me. I, Violet Electric, am not someone who is afraid of death." Her eyes were stubborn, and her expression was stubborn and proud. Taking a deep breath, Lin Feng bent down. Persuasion was of no use to Violet Electric. For a powerhouse like her, once she made a decision, she would not hesitate and would not change her mind. It was rare for her to waver. "Since you're not afraid of death, then do you dare make another bet?" Lin Feng suddenly opened his mouth. Violet Electric was startled, and her beautiful brows furrowed. Lin Feng saw the changes in Violet Electric's expression. He could see that she was wavering. Since conventional methods didn't work, he might as well try something else. What kind of trick are you trying to play? Violet Electric said coldly. I want to give you another chance. I don't know if you dare to make the bet. Lin Feng said. Give me another chance? Violet Electric's chest rose and fell slightly, her expression constantly changing. Lin Feng nodded and looked at Violet Electric. I can let you go unconditionally. You can continue to fight for the throne. Use all your means and strength to become the king of the North Chan River. Violet Electric's beautiful eyes were wide open. Her flashing eyes revealed the surging emotions in her heart. She still had another chance? Of course. This is a bet. If there's a chance to win, then there's a chance to lose. Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric and said calmly, If you lose, then you'll submit to me and let me do whatever I want with you. The last sentence was sonorous and forceful. Lin Feng's eyes burned. Do you want to make the bet or not? I'll make the bet. Violet Electric stared at Lin Feng without backing down. A hint of unyielding determination appeared on her beautiful face. She said with a faint disdain, If I lose, I'll let you do whatever you want with me. I won't complain, even if I become your slave. Very good. Lin Feng smiled. Then, the heaven-capturing net shook and released Violet Electric. Swoosh! Violet Electric's eyes flashed. Although she agreed to the bet, she didn't expect Lin Feng to release her so decisively. Don't you need me to swear? Lin Feng's mouth twitched. No, I believe you. Violet Electric looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. Her full breasts rose and fell. After a long time, she bit her lip and said, If I lose, I'll keep my promise. After saying that, Violet Electric turned into a flash of lightning and flew away. Ha! Lin Feng smiled. What a stubborn character, but he liked it. Although there was some risk in releasing a tiger back to the mountains, there was a price to pay for the gains. He was willing to take this risk. Moreover, even if Violet Electric became stronger, he might gain more, a stronger subordinate. He knew that Violet Electric had been hesitating. She had her own ambitions. He could see that she was unwilling to accept her loss. Letting her go was like hitting her soft spot. It's not that easy to become the king of Beichan River. Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric's back as she left. At least, she had to get past him. Lin Feng set off again. There was no news of the first princess and Yuan Shi'ais. He didn't need to search for them because he knew where they were. It was the same for Violet Electric. They only had one final destination, the place where they met. The place where the 4 Beichan rivers met, the center of the River of Destiny. The essence of the Beichan River gathered there. There were endless treasures and opportunities, including the royal pearl. He couldn't think of any reason why Yuan Shi'ais and the first princess would not go there. He was also very curious. When we reach the place where they meet, we'll naturally run into them. This time, with the heaven-catching net, we can catch them all. Lin Feng smiled. The biggest variable now was Yuan Shi'ais because he didn't know how strong he was. As for the first princess, she was no different from Violet Electric now. The only difference was that she was 50 steps away from 100 steps away. If he ran into her, he could definitely capture her. Yuan Shi'ais. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. A Beichan River Yao who was extremely good at enduring. A Beichan River Yao with astonishing potential. Even now, he didn't know how he defeated King Yin Wang and became the crown prince. He also had such shocking strength. Before entering the ancestral land, Yuan Shi'ai's strength was much weaker than his. Soon, we will meet again. Lin Feng sped forward, his body emitting a faint fighting spirit. With a sweep of his tail, he killed a river monster and put away the light of the Beichan River. The closer he got to the place where the rivers met, the more river monsters there were. It didn't matter. There was no harm in earning more light of the Beichan River. Lin Feng continued forward. After the battle with the first princess, the River of Destiny became calm. According to Violet Electric, Yuan Shi'ais would come to deal with him, but he didn't appear. He didn't know why, but this battle would come sooner or later. Finally, I'm here. After traveling for hundreds of days, he finally arrived at the place where the rivers met. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he looked ahead. He felt the surging energy of the river of destiny, his heart surging. Here, the final battle for the throne of the Beichan River would take place. Chapter 16:15. This is the intersection point. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the surroundings. He stepped into the center of the Chan River. Just as Violet Electric had said, the energy here was abundant. It was even stronger than the river of destiny outside. It should be very dangerous. The strength of the river monsters must be even more terrifying than the ones outside. It was the same place of destiny and the same energy composition. It was not difficult to speculate. Lin Feng had already been fully alert. He was about to face the final battle for the throne of the North Chan River. How could he be careless? Just the unknown strength of Yanzhe alone was a huge variable. The first princess, Tang Wanfeng, and even Purple Lightning might have a chance to change here. No one knew what would happen until the last moment. He had seen too many examples like this. There's a treasure of destiny here. Lin Feng was inwardly shaken. There was at least one treasure that could be obtained, and that was the Imperial Pearl. It was just that he did not know who would obtain it and how to obtain it. According to Violet Electric, the deeper I go, the greater the energy pressure and the higher the possibility of a treasure of destiny. Lin Feng looked down. It was like a bottomless abyss. Unlike the abyss, water had water pressure. Powerful water pressure was the power of nature. It was more terrifying than many other forces. The strength of a river monster that could survive under such powerful water pressure was unimaginable. Let's explore the intersection first. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. It would not be too late to go deeper after familiarizing himself with the environment. How to become the new king of the North Chan River? Lin Feng did not know, but he knew that as long as he did two things, he would definitely become the king of the North Chan River. The first was to obtain the Imperial Pearl left behind after Tang Ji's self-destruction. The second was to kill or capture the other three competitors. In fact, these two things were not contradictory. Instead, they were closely related, because the other three competitors must also be looking for Wang Zhu's whereabouts. What exactly is the Imperial Pearl used for? Lin Feng was very curious. Even Violet Electric did not know. The one who knew the most was probably First Princess Tang Wanfeng. After all, she was born in a royal family. It was impossible for someone as ambitious as her to not know about the Imperial Pearl. If even she was so worried about it, the effect of the Royal Pearl could be seen. Could it be that by obtaining the Royal Pearl, one can directly become the king of the North Chan River? Lin Feng wondered. This was not impossible, but if it was that simple, there would be no need to go through so much trouble to come to the River of Fate. Wouldn't it be faster and more direct to fight for the Royal Pearl? Or is the Royal Pearl a key, a symbol? Lin Feng pondered as he searched. His target was Wang Zhu. It was not easy to find the other three crown princes, and he might not be able to find Wang Zhu. However, as long as he could find Wang Zhu, he would definitely be able to find the other three crown princes. But where could he find Wang Zhu? While he was deep in thought, the river water suddenly emitted a gurgling sound. Waves of vibrating ripples came one after another, as if the god of fate was roaring. This time, the feeling seemed familiar, but it was very strong. Break the flow, Lin Feng thought to himself. Ever since he entered the river of fate, this had happened twice. This time it was the third time. It was slightly different from the previous two times. This time, the flow is longer, but the ripples. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he looked to the left. The left was the direction he had come from, where the River of Fate was located at the North Chan River. In fact, the River of Fate ran through the four continents. The North, South, West, and North Chan rivers were all present. Previously, he had not felt anything special in the North Chan River because the time was too short and the amplitude was too small. However, he could feel something different from the ripples here. The direction. The direction of the ripples is towards the North Chan River. Lin Feng thought to himself. There was only one direction, and it was not spread out. Simply put, the ripples were only related to the North Chan River. Was there such a coincidence? No. Lin Feng immediately denied it. The reason why it was called a confluence was because it was connected to all four Chan rivers. If the flow was from the confluence, there was no reason for it to only be related to the North Chan River. Now that it was so strange, it meant that the flow was closely related to the North Chan River's River of Fate. What was so special about the North Chan River? King Pearl. Lin Feng had a very clear answer. Because of the appearance of the King Pearl, the flow was cut off, causing the ripples at the confluence to become more intense. Only then would the ripples point towards the North Chan River's River of Fate, and not the other three Chan rivers. It was very clear. Although he still had many doubts, he believed that this conjecture was the closest to the truth. In other words, the flow is definitely related to the King Pearl. It is very likely that it is the source. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. If he was not wrong, it was because of the uniqueness of the King Pearl that caused the flow to be cut off. The East, South, West, and North Chan rivers each had a King Pearl. They were like compasses that pointed towards their respective areas. The North Chan River's King Pearl naturally pointed towards the North Chan River. Over there, Lin Feng immediately began to move. The ripples caused by the flow had just disappeared, but in that instant, he was able to determine the approximate location. The ripples here were much clearer than in the River of Fate. Although it was a general direction, it did not matter. This was because the flow had not only been cut off once. It was already the third time, and soon, the fourth, fifth, as long as he followed the direction of the ripples, he would be able to find the King Pearl. Very good. Lin Feng was overjoyed. Compared to when he was blindly crossing the river, he now had a clear direction. The direction of the ripples was very clear. It was in the depths of the intersection. Lin Feng continued to move downwards, and the strength of the river monsters he encountered was constantly increasing. In this place, even survival was not an easy task. A river monster that has advanced to the peak of the Black Region Master level. Lin Feng clicked his tongue. If the top 10 experts of the North Chan River encountered a river monster of this level, they would die. Clearly, strength was a basic requirement to become the king of the North Chan River. No wonder Tang Ji set up 4 checkpoints. Lin Feng nodded. Those with strength would not be buried. Those with potential would be able to gradually increase their strength through these 4 checkpoints, such as himself and Yin Zhe. It's getting closer. Lin Feng gradually sensed the intensity of the ripples. They were very close to the source. At this moment, he was even more cautious because it was very likely that he would encounter the other 3 crown princes here. Another ripple appeared. Over there, Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast. The intense undulations caused him to be able to feel the enormous energy, which was incomparably surging. Lin Feng left behind afterimages as he fiercely lashed out with his tail whip, directly sending the obstructing river monsters flying with a bang. The water in front of him rippled, and corals were everywhere. In the center of the endless corals, there was an underwater palace that seemed to be made of corals. It was a beautiful spectacle with all kinds of river monsters entering and leaving. It's not the King Pearl. Lin Feng was startled. Chapter 16:16. Roar! Roar! The 2 river monsters roared as they charged over. The river monsters had a strong aversion to other life forms. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Whether it was him or the Chan River Monster clan, the river monsters would attack as soon as they saw them. Advanced to the peak of the Black Region Master level. Previously, he had only encountered a few occasionally, but now that he had just arrived at the Coral Imperial Palace and had seen such strength, how could he be careless? No one knew what kind of monsters were in the Coral Imperial Palace. Let's end this quickly. Lin Feng directly attacked. Lin Feng's silver blade technique transformed into 2 arcs of light. The overflowing blade energy contained tyrannical power, heavily injuring the 2 river monsters. In the next instant, Lin Feng's figure flashed, and countless blade energies fell like a net, tearing apart the river monsters. Now that he had advanced to the peak of the Black Region Master level, although it was a bit of a threat, it was only a little troublesome. After all, there is a huge difference in strength between the peak of the same level. The weak, like the newly advanced Violet Electric, Lin Feng could take her life in 3 moves. The strong, like the eldest princess Tang Wanfeng, might not be able to kill her even if he used all his strength. The same was true for the river monsters. After killing two more river monsters suddenly appeared in the Coral Imperial Palace. They glared at Lin Feng with their fish eyes and roared. One held a trident and the other a shield as they charged at him. Their aura was clearly stronger than the previous two. This time, Lin Feng spent a bit of effort. The two river monsters were excellent in both offense and defense. They weren't weaklings, and one attacked while the other defended. As soon as he killed the two river monsters, the Coral Imperial Palace suddenly flashed. This time, 4 rays of light appeared. Lin Feng frowned slightly, but he didn't have time to think. He retreated with the recoil force and left before the river monsters appeared. Too many. He didn't want to act rashly before he understood the situation of the Coral Imperial Palace. He didn't want to attract trouble, especially the ripples caused by the Coral Imperial Palace. It was different from what he had guessed before. There seemed to be something hidden within that he couldn't see through. Moreover, the Coral Imperial Palace was definitely not ordinary. Just by looking at the river monsters entering and exiting it, one could tell. It was full of mystery. These should be the corals of fate that Violet Electric mentioned. There are so many of them. Lin Feng sighed. According to Violet Electric, there shouldn't be a lot of treasures like the corals of fate. However, there was a huge area here. Even the top of the Coral Palace was filled with corals of fate of various colors. It was like a huge mine. Crack! Lin Feng shattered a small piece of the coral of fate in his hand, and the rich and pure energy of the Chan River immediately spread out, leaving everyone speechless. It was the real deal. It was indeed the coral of fate. With so many corals of destiny, if I give them to any of the Chan River's Yao race. Lin Feng was secretly alarmed. As long as one's cultivation level was high enough, one's strength could increase without limit. Unfortunately, he was not from the Chang River monster race. Moreover, even with the abundant energy of the Chan River, it wasn't easy to break through to the master of the Black Domain. To pry into the heavenly Tao, the stronger one was, the higher the requirement for one's realm. However, the coral of fate was still extremely precious. If there are so many corals of fate outside, what will be inside the Coral Palace? Lin Feng was even more curious. Although the ripples didn't seem to have anything to do with the King Pearl, this Coral Palace wasn't simple. If he could enter and take a look, he would definitely gain something. However, with so many river monsters entering and leaving, it would be difficult to enter. With his strength, he could kill some of the river monsters, but not all of them. Even if he was lucky enough to enter, once his identity was exposed and he was discovered by the river monsters, not to mention 1 against 100, even escaping would become a problem. If he entered, it would be extremely dangerous. If he didn't enter, he would miss the opportunity. If I were an ordinary Chan River monster race member, just collecting the corals of fate outside would be enough to fill my bowl. Lin Feng thought. Unfortunately, these corals of fate were of little value to him. Let's observe first. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. He concealed himself outside the Coral Palace and settled down. Although the river monsters were strong, they only had some instinctive consciousness and didn't seem to be very smart. Moreover, their strength was similar, and his soul was much stronger than the river monsters. Normally, they wouldn't be able to discover him. There were many river monsters entering and exiting. Lin Feng observed for 30 days and quickly discovered a pattern. Every 10 days, there would be a gap of about 2 hours. During this time, the entire Coral Palace was strangely quiet. Not a single river monster entered or exited. It was very strange. During the rest of the time, the river monsters entered and exited very frequently. In these 30 days, at least 1 million river monsters had entered and exited the Coral Palace. The number was quite terrifying. No wonder the winged men didn't dare to exterminate the Chan River monster race. Lin Feng nodded inwardly. The Chan River monster race's power was stronger than he had imagined. Although they lacked combat ability on land, they were natural overlords of the Chan River. Even the winged men had to avoid them. A single Coral Imperial Palace was already so terrifying, so how powerful would the entire intersection be? Lin Feng thought to himself that he was lucky. Fortunately, he hadn't recklessly barged into the coral palace. Otherwise, once the danger erupted, he would undoubtedly die. However, he was unwilling to let go of this opportunity to solve the mystery of the coral palace. It wasn't easy to get here. There was no reason to miss it. Could it be that I should take advantage of this 2-hour gap to enter? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He had a bold idea in his mind. After careful consideration, it was also very dangerous. If this gap did not turn out as he expected, then he would be dead for sure. Or I can choose a compromise. Lin Feng thought for a moment and made a decision. Bang! Lin Feng severely injured a river monster. The latter wailed and looked extremely weak. Pa! He threw out the beast-controlling bead chain. Lin Feng tried again. The river monster's eyes widened, and its face was filled with horror. It roared and exploded. Whoosh! An invisible force turned into a light film, blocking its flesh. The fifth one. Lin Feng frowned slightly. His original intention was to take a river monster as a slave and let it enter to explore. However, after trying 5 river monsters in a row, all of them were the same. It seemed that they would rather die than submit, but in fact they were limited by the rules. It seems that this method won't work. Lin Feng shook his head and pursed his lips. He was in a dilemma. Suddenly, his heart moved. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He looked into the distance and saw a familiar aura rushing over. Oh, she's here too. Lin Feng hid his figure and retreated. That familiar figure turned into a bolt of purple lightning and came over. She was also very careful, but when she saw the boundless corals of destiny, her eyes instantly widened. She covered her cherry mouth in shock and disbelief. The newcomer was Purple Bolt. Chapter 16-17. That's great. Violet Electric's crescent-shaped eyes flashed with excitement. She recognized the Coral of Fate and knew its use. This large piece of Coral of Fate was not very useful to First Princess Tang Wanfeng, but it was extremely important to her. If the Coral of Fate was compared to food, then First Princess Tang Wanfeng was already full, but Violet Electric was currently empty. She had just become a peak master of Black Region. There was still a long way to go before she reached saturation. As long as I have enough time, with these Coral of Fate, my strength will increase greatly. Violet Electric bit her rosy lips, secretly delighted. She saw hope. She saw the possibility of surpassing the first princess, Enim. Just as she was about to pluck it, Violet Electric's delicate body suddenly trembled, and her face turned pale. Turning her head, she saw a face with a smile that was not a smile, looking at her with a familiar smile. Violet Electric's heart immediately sank to the bottom, as if she had fallen from the clouds. How could it be you? Violet Electric gritted her teeth, stalling for time to talk to Lin Feng, thinking of a way to escape. However, in the next instant, seeing the barefooted giant gray slave appear, as well as the resplendent golden heaven capturing net, Violet Electric was like a deflated balloon, feeling weak all over. She knew that it was impossible for her to escape from the heaven capturing net. Why can't it be me? Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. He didn't expect that instead of catching the first princess in Yinze, he would catch a small fish that he had released. Sometimes the world was just so strange. Violet Electric's face was completely red, and she looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. What do you want? If you were me, what would you do? Lin Feng asked. Violet Lightning's jade-like face instantly turned deathly pale, and her gentle and beautiful body began to tremble. She naturally remembered the bet she had with Tang Feng. The bet was whether or not she could become the new king of the North Chan River. But now, if she was caught by Tang Feng again, would she still have chance? Tang Feng's strength was enough to easily defeat her and then capture her with the heaven capturing net. This isn't fair. Violet Electric stared at Lin Feng stubbornly. Lin Feng said indifferently, "There is no such thing as true fairness in this world. Only the winner takes all. Do you want to surrender without a fight, or do you want me to defeat you once?" Letting her go once was enough. Lin Feng would not show mercy to the fairer sex and let her go a second time. Violet Electric's face was deathly pale. She staggered and looked at Lin Feng with grief in her eyes. She knew it was impossible for her to win against Tang Feng. Actually, there is no need for you to be so sad. Becoming my subordinate will not bring you too much harm. On the contrary, I can provide you with a wider space, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric pursed her lips and remained silent. Lin Feng said, if you stay here, you'll only be the king of the North Chan River. In the end, you'll only be as strong as Tang Ji. But if you follow me, you'll get even stronger. Become a top-notch master of Black Domain, or even surpass him. Violet Electric sneered with a trace of disdain. Lin Feng smiled and did not mind. No one would believe a chaos-whole immortal being so arrogant, especially Violet Electric, who is too smart. However, there was no need to explain so much. Lin Feng said indifferently, whether you believe me or not, let's begin. After saying that, Lin Feng's true body appeared. In an instant, a soul contract was tossed out, heading straight for Violet Electric. The latter's beautiful eyes widened as she stared at Lin Feng in disbelief. She was more shocked than surprised. Terrified, she said, You are not from the Chan River Yao clan. Lin Feng said, Is there a difference? Violet Electric's face flushed red as she glared at Lin Feng, her delicate body trembling. You, Lin Feng said, could it be that you want to go back on your word? Violet Electric stomped her foot as tears streamed down her face. Her face was filled with sadness and dead silence. She closed her eyes as if she had nothing to live for. In an instant, a white light appeared. Lin Feng smiled and nodded in satisfaction. Violet Electric had given in. She didn't succumb to her own strength, but to her pride. She would not allow herself to go back on her word. Master, Violet Electric knelt on one knee. Her eyes were bright but lifeless, as if she had become a soul slave. She would never be able to rise again, and her soul would be deeply branded. Lin Feng glanced at Violet Electric. Now that their souls were connected, he knew what she was thinking. She was a smart and ambitious member of the Chan River Yao clan. She wanted to become the king of the North Chan River and strengthen her clan. She wanted to strengthen the North Chan River so that it would no longer be the weakest of the four. She was ambitious. I will fulfill your wish, Lin Feng said in a low voice. What? Violet Electric was stunned. She raised her head in confusion and looked at her new master. Although her soul had given in, her heart was dead. Lin Feng looked straight at Violet Electric and said, I will help you become the king of the North Chan River. One day, you will know that today's decision was right. After that, Lin Feng did not say anything else. It was better to do it directly than to say anything else. Violet Electric was a smart person. She would understand some things sooner or later. Lin Feng wanted to become the king of the North Chan River, but he did not belong to the Chan River. He did not even belong to the Tung Chi continent. There were some things that needed to be done and some positions that needed to be filled. They did not need to be very strong, but they had to be loyal, reliable, smart, and steady. Violet Electric was an excellent candidate. In the depths of the intersection, Wang Zhu is here. Yuan Zhe glanced at First Princess Tang Luanfeng. Yes, Tang Luanfeng said. Yuan Zhe chuckled. Actually, I'm very curious. Why are you helping me? We each take what we need. It will be difficult for me to get the Wang Zhu alone. Tang Luanfeng raised her head slightly. The phoenix crown on her forehead symbolized her status. Is that so? Yuan Zhe looked ahead. It was a land filled with whirlpools. There were river monsters everywhere, densely packed together. The Wang Zhu is here? Yuan Zhe had reservations about the first princess. Believe it or not, there are too many river monsters here. I can't get in alone. First Princess Tang Luanfeng said, We will go in together. Whoever finds the Wang Zhu will get it. Yuan Zhe smiled. Looks like I have a great advantage. Tang Luanfeng raised her eyebrows slightly and said indifferently, Even if you find the Wang Zhu, it doesn't mean you will become the king of the North Chan River. Yuan Zhe shrugged. At least, the chances are higher. Tang Luanfeng did not deny it. Do you remember our previous promise? Yuan Zhe nodded. Of course. You, and I are officially allies. We swore on the River of Destiny. Naturally, we will abide by it. Tang Wanfeng's red eyes rolled, and she nodded. Okay, let's go. Whoosh! Yuan Zhe's eyes lit up. The two powerhouses disappeared into the endless whirlpool in an instant. After being defeated by Lin Feng, first Princess Tang, Wanfeng naturally had to hold on tightly to Yuan Zhe. Otherwise, she alone would not be able to take revenge, let alone become the king of the North Chan River. She would not give up. Chapter 16:18. On Lin Feng's side, since he had received Violet Electric, he didn't hold anything back. Wu Jin and the old demon Golden Flame guarded Violet Electric and arranged for her to quickly absorb the Coral of Fate. The boundless energy of the Chan River caused Violet Electric's strength to rapidly increase, especially at the beginning of her absorption. Lin Feng didn't really need Violet Electric's help, but every bit of strength counted. As for how to break into the Coral Imperial Palace, he still didn't have a good idea. The main problem is that I can't enslave the river monsters. Otherwise, I could let them enter and explore. Lin Feng didn't give up. There had to be a secret in this Coral Imperial Palace. The ripples that led to the North Chan River's River of Fate were the key. But if he entered, the risk was too high. The two sides were in a dilemma. After waiting for another 10 days, the results were exactly the same. There was a gap every 10 days. During these 2 hours, all the river monsters seemed to have disappeared without a trace. It was very strange. What do you think, Violet Electric? Lin Feng's eyes flashed. It's worth a try, Violet Electric said. What do you mean? Lin Feng asked curiously. Violet Electric said, this is a place of convergence. As long as it's a rare treasure, it will be heavily guarded and extremely difficult to obtain. Therefore, the more dangerous it looks, the more valuable it is hidden. Lin Feng nodded. I'm very curious. Why are there these 2 hours every 10 days? Violet Electric said, maybe it's the special energy of a treasure, or a taboo of a powerhouse, or a tradition of the river monsters. There are too many possibilities. In other words, unless I enter and explore, I'll never know, Lin Feng said. Violet Electric volunteered. If Master wants to know, Violet Electric is willing to enter. Lin Feng shook his head. You're not strong enough. His gaze fell on the Coral Imperial Palace. Although he knew that this trip was very dangerous, he didn't want to give up, retreat, and then die without success. Since he had already come here, there was no way out. If he couldn't become the king of the North Chan River, he would also die. Naturally, he would not choose to submit. Master, Violet Electric looked at Lin Feng. Her heart moved. Although the mark of obedience had been branded in the depths of her soul, she still had her own thoughts and consciousness. She was a complete life. Violet Electric was well aware of how the other powerhouses treated their servants. Using them as cannon fodder and sending them to their deaths was a common occurrence. In fact, there were even more tragic things than this. But her master was not like that. Violet Electric pursed her lips, her cheeks blushing. Then, she gently reached her white, jade-like arm in her chest and took off a necklace with a faint rose-red color. In the middle of the necklace was a slightly protruding brown gemstone. This is for you, Master. Violet Electric handed it over with both hands. Oh, Lin Feng took it curiously. The necklace was still warm, and the brown gem on the top contained a unique and familiar energy. Spatial energy, a spatial treasure. Lin Feng looked at Violet Electric, his eyes flashing. He suddenly remembered that Violet Electric had wanted to use this treasure when fighting first Princess Tang Wanfeng. Unfortunately, she was caught by the heaven-capturing net before she could use it. Violet Electric nodded. This thing is called the Chaotic Space Gem. It can be used to exchange with the outside world in an instant. The gem contains a large amount of pure spatial energy, but it can only be used once. Oh, Lin Feng's heart was moved, and he began to observe carefully. Violet Electric said, Master only needs to set a location here. If you encounter danger in the Coral Imperial Palace, you can break the Chaotic Space Gem and escape. However, there is still some danger. If you encounter a stronger treasure, you may not be able to escape alive. The best way is to let this subordinate enter from Master to take a look. Master can rest assured. This subordinate's strength has increased a lot, and with the protection of the chaotic space gem, I can protect myself. Lin Feng smiled at Violet Electric. You don't have to go. Just stay here and continue cultivating. I won't stand on ceremony with you, so I'll take the chaos gem. Lin Feng felt a surge of warmth in his heart as he held the gem that emitted a faint fragrance. After having Old Demon Golden Flame protect Violet Electric and continue cultivating, Lin Feng prepared to explore. There were still 3 days until the next free period. He could use this time to familiarize himself with the use of the chaotic space gem. In this unknown intersection, life-saving means were very important. Once I enter, the mysterious Yin cloak can also be used. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Instantly, his body glowed and turned invisible. The mysterious Yin cloak was a peak chaotic space treasure. In addition to its basic defense, it also had a special ability to obscure one's vision. If one relied on the naked eye, it was very easy to get lost. The Tyrannosaurus clone was larger, and the river monster's soul perception was weaker. Therefore, they often relied on the naked eye in battle. Using the special ability of the Mystic Yin cloak would allow him to achieve twice the result with half the effort in the battle against the river monster. He hadn't used it before because it wasn't necessary. There were no river monsters that could block his attack. But if he was surrounded, the mysterious Yin cloak's importance would be highlighted. He waited patiently. Soon, 3 days passed. Outside the Coral Imperial Palace, the river monsters that had been coming and going seemed to have disappeared in an instant. The resplendent palace gate was empty, and no river monsters appeared. Now, Lin Feng turned into a flash of light and charged forward. Every 10 days, there would be 2 small space-time intervals. Every minute and every second was crucial. Lin Feng's 10,000 fangs claws were sparkling. His eyes were shining brightly, showing his fighting spirit. This opportunity couldn't be missed. 50% chance. Lin Feng knew very well that he had a 50% chance. If he guessed correctly, there shouldn't be any river monsters in the Coral Imperial Palace. But if he guessed wrong, the moment he entered was the moment of battle. Bang! Lin Feng's saber intent surged and blasted at the Coral Imperial Palace's flashing gate. His attack seemed to land on cotton, and the Coral Imperial Palace's gate of light instantly disappeared. Ha! Lin Feng pierced through. Swish! Lin Feng's heart instantly jumped. His fighting spirit surged, and the mysterious Yin cloak released its absolute defense. He didn't know what would be waiting for him in the Coral Imperial Palace in the next second, or what would happen inside. What a powerful aura! Lin Feng's mind was instantly stupefied. It was as if space-time was distorted, and rays of light shot past like meteors. Strands of energy circulated according to a unique law. It seemed as if days, months, and years had passed, but in an instant his vision was bright. Bang! Lin Feng's heart trembled, and his feet touched the ground. Endless powerful energy surged in from all directions, and Lin Feng instantly felt suffocated. His eyes swept over, and his pupils dilated. This is Chapter 1619. The majestic palace was shrouded in a layer of white light. Under the illumination of the white light, the river monsters froze as if they had been struck by a body immobilization talisman. Some of them had their heads tilted, some were walking, and some were talking. Their forms and appearances were all strange. Not good. Lin Feng's face suddenly changed. Instantly, he felt the tyrannical power of the powerful energy. It was as if it had a life of its own and was constantly increasing, binding him to the spot. It was as if a mountain of heavenly might was pressing down from the sky. The pressure was constantly increasing. Bang! Lin Feng shouted and resisted with all his might, because he knew that once he was crushed by this huge energy, he would fall into an inexplicable state like these river monsters. If he was lucky, he would wake up in 2 hours. If he was unlucky, no one knew what would happen next. Bang! Bang! The mysterious Yin cloak was squeezed out of shape. The energy was constantly increasing. Lin Feng's face became more and more solemn. His feet seemed to be filled with lead, unable to move forward. This static energy was too strong. This won't do. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Under the strong pressure of the static energy, his bones were almost deformed. If not for the mysterious Yin cloak, he would have been crushed. Go! Lin Feng did not hesitate. If he did not leave now, he would not be able to leave later. Fortunately, he had just entered and was at the entrance of the Coral Palace. He used all his strength to retreat and soon stepped out of the static energy. Bang! Lin Feng landed heavily on the ground, his face pale. Ursanen instantly appeared. Under his protection, Lin Feng quickly began to recover. The scene that had just happened was still fresh in his mind. Because the static energy was too strong. My soul has also lost a lot of energy. Lin Feng could clearly feel. The energy suppression of the Coral Palace was all-encompassing. After pondering for a moment, Lin Feng immediately understood. If it was only the physical body that was suppressed, how could it be completely static? The reason why those river monsters were like statues was most likely because their souls were also dormant. My soul is stronger than the average river monster. Plus, the static energy was not the strongest attack from the beginning. That was why he had been able to escape at the last moment. Frowning, Lin Feng tried to recall the other secrets of the Coral Palace, but all he could see was that resplendent white light that enveloped everything. He had no time to explore. Or perhaps, the current him did not have the strength to explore. But no matter what, he had taken the first crucial step and learned a small part of the Coral Palace's secrets. Although it was only a small part, it was crucial. Therefore, the key to entering the Coral Imperial Palace is how to resist this enormous static energy. Lin Feng thought. Recovery was not difficult. Not to mention, Lin Feng had a heaven-defying treasure like the 10,000 origin mustard stone, which could completely protect his soul. Even if his body was suppressed by the energy of stillness, his soul would at least remain conscious. This was crucial. Even if I fail and the tyrant dragon clone is immobilized, I can still immediately release the Ursuline or have my main body take the clone away. Lin Feng pondered. However, if it wasn't necessary, he wasn't willing to take this risk. Because there were too many variables, no one could be 100% sure. There might only be a fine line between stillness and death. How can the body resist the static energy? Lin Feng had been thinking about this problem for the past few days. The 2-hour gap had already passed, and the river monsters were coming in and out again. But it did not matter, because the gap would appear every 10 days. If he wanted to try, he just had to wait another 10 days. The problem was that if he did not have a good method, even if he tried 10 or 100 times, he still would not be able to resist the static energy. At the very least, his current strength was far from enough. It's not on the same level. Lin Feng was very clear. The static energy not only surpassed the level of an advanced Dark Domain Master, but it also surpassed the level of a peak Dark Domain Master. If it had evil intentions, he would definitely die. No matter how strong the body is, it won't be able to resist. Lin Feng understood. Therefore, it was not a good idea to think of ways to strengthen the body, including fusing with a new defensive treasure. The mysterious Yin Cloak's defense was already at its peak. Even if he fused with a new defensive treasure, it would only delay it for a while. This was not a permanent solution. But now, this is the only way. Lin Feng shook his head. He did not give up. The strange Coral Palace and the static energy had instead aroused Lin Feng's competitive spirit. Although he still did not have a good method, Lin Feng believed that there was definitely a secret behind it. However, he had yet to discover it. He tried again and again, failed again and again, but each time, he would accumulate some experience. For example, the fluctuations of the static energy were different in every part of the palace. For example, the attack speed of the static energy was different every time. From the first time he fled in a sorry state, Lin Feng was now able to completely grasp the timing. With the entrance as the center, a fan-shaped area was formed. Although it was still within the range of the white light, the further away he was from the entrance, the further he could see the Coral Palace. The amount of information he could gather increased with each failure. But this time, Lin Feng's eyes completely lit up. The turbulent static energy came crashing down without any gaps. Instantly, Ubizin appeared and forcibly helped Lin Feng take on a lot of the static energy. Lin Feng's body fiercely stepped forward. The golden door became even clearer. It was at the end of the white light. Huh! With a roar, Ubizin's power surged out and completely overshadowed Lin Feng's aura. It gathered most of the static energy into its body. This was one of the experiences Lin Feng had gained. The static energy was like iron attracted to a stone. The greater the magnetic force of the stone, the more static energy it would attract. The appearance of Ubizin was the best energy disperser. However, although he could see the golden door, the end of the white light was too far away. Go! Lin Feng clearly remembered the location in his mind. He didn't advance, but retreated. As he passed Ubizin, he instantly absorbed Ubizin into the beast-controlling pearl chain. Boom! All of the static energy leaked out, and then all of it rushed towards Lin Feng. Compared to before, it was twice as many as before. However, Lin Feng's speed was quite fast. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, he had returned to the entrance. His figure flashed and disappeared. He safely left. Finally, there's a breakthrough. Lin Feng left the Coral Palace. Although his complexion was pale and his body was weak, his spirit was incomparably excited. He had stayed here for more than 100 days. After more than 10 failures, he finally had an opportunity. Next time, I want to enter this golden door. Lin Feng pursed his lips and clenched his fist. Chapter 16:20. Force his way in. Once he found his target, he was determined to force his way in. However, although the distance to the door of light at the end of the white light was short, it was not easy to enter, especially the interference of the static energy. The deeper he went in, the stronger the pressure on his body. The first time he entered, he was a few thousand meters away. The second time, he was 2,000 meters away. The third time, the fourth time, no, this is my limit. Lin Feng gasped for breath, his expression solemn. He had just come out of the Coral Imperial Palace and tried 7 times in a row. Although he had accumulated a lot of experience and methods, 1,000 meters was already his limit. It was very difficult to go any further. Indeed, he could do his best to cross this 1,000 meters distance, but he did not have any energy left. Was such a risk worth it? Let's think of another way. Lin Feng sat down to recover. The present situation had not yet reached the point of imminent danger, so there was no need to stake everything on one throw. With a target and a direction, things became much simpler. Lin Feng knew what he should do and how to improve himself. Although it was slow, every 10 days, every 100 days, he would make some progress. From the previous 1,000 meters, he had slowly shrunk to 500 meters, for 100 meters, 300 meters. There is a chance. In 300 days or so, I will definitely be able to shrink to within 100 meters. Lin Feng was very confident. Using the static energy characteristic, using the situation in the Coral Imperial Palace, using his own ability, he could definitely do it. Of course, his final goal was to enter that golden door of light. If he could not enter, everything would be in vain. At this moment, not far away, a bright light flashed. The familiar energy aura expanded like a balloon, and even the river of fate trembled slightly. Lin Feng looked over and smiled. Violet Electric's strength had increased again. She has intelligence and ability. It is normal for her to improve. Lin Feng knew. What Purple Lightning lacked was opportunity, and nurturing. In terms of talent, she might not be as good as King Yin Wang, but she was not inferior to Aurora. Sometimes, luck was also very important. He could give her many things that she did not have before. After this transformation, her strength should be about the same as Aurora. Yes, Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction. To the current Violet Electric, the comprehension of her cultivation base was not important. Instead, the most important thing was to raise her strength to the limit. This was because this was the fastest way to increase her strength in the shortest amount of time. Moreover, there were countless corals of fate here, so this method was like a fish in water. If Violet Electric became stronger, it would only be beneficial to him. Just as he was pondering, suddenly, pong! something seemed to be exploding in his head. An enormous voice shook along with the flow of the river of destiny, and it entered directly into his mind. It was grand and imposing, yet it didn't carry any emotion, and it was like the might of the heavens. The monarch pearl has recognized its master. If we can't obtain the treasure of destiny that can contend against the royal pearl within the time limit, the king of the northern Shan River will be settled. The countdown begins. Lin Feng's heart shook violently. Suddenly, a huge image appeared in his mind. A bright spot of light stood upright like a king. Under that spot of light, there was a huge light green hourglass. The pearl-like sand was falling down with a rustling sound. The countdown began. The royal pearl is indeed the key. Lin Feng was inwardly shaken. He wasn't panicking and was instead very calm. To obtain the royal pearl, there were obviously other conditions. If he couldn't obtain it, then there was nothing he could do. He had done his best and let nature take its course. There was no need to regret. Moreover, he wasn't at the end of the road yet. I have to obtain the treasure of destiny within the time limit. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed as he stared at the coral imperial palace. His intuition told him that there must be a treasure of destiny in this coral imperial palace. However, there wasn't enough time. This hourglass. Lin Feng closed his eyes. He could still clearly see the giant hourglass. It was very similar to the one he saw in the World Tower. There wasn't much time left, and he couldn't see the exact time. However, it wouldn't be over in 2 or 3 days. At least 100 days. Lin Feng observed for a while and relaxed. If it was only a few days, then it would be troublesome. However, there was still plenty of time, enough for him to enter the Coral Imperial Palace a few more times. However, there was no time for probing. Let's go directly. Lin Feng had already made up his mind. Even if he was given another 100 days, he wouldn't be able to reduce the distance to 100 meters, let alone enter the Golden Door. There was nothing wrong with being cautious, but there were times when he couldn't consider too much. When it was time to do it, he would do it. If I don't count the return, I have an 80% chance of entering the Golden Door. Lin Feng carefully considered. As long as there were no accidents, entering the Golden Door was basically a done deal. Return, I'll rely on Violet Electric's chaotic space gem. Lin Feng had already made a full plan. The most perfect process was naturally to enter the treasure of destiny inside the Golden Door. He would then enter, obtain it, and then use the chaotic space gem to leave. There was only one chance, because the chaotic space gem could only be used once. Of course, this was the best plan. However, there were too many variables in reality. Just the treasure of destiny itself was already very powerful. If he guessed correctly, this 2-hour gap was most likely related to the treasure of destiny. How could a treasure of destiny that could release such powerful energy be so easy to obtain? However, there was no point in thinking about it now. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he would know once he tried. After 10 days of recuperation, Lin Feng had made all his preparations. He had simulated the route countless times in his mind and tested it countless times. The moment the gap arrived, Lin Feng shot out like lightning, his eyes shining with confidence and his aura exceptionally decisive. This time he had to succeed. Bang! As soon as he entered the Coral Imperial Palace, Lin Feng erupted with all his strength. He clearly knew that the battle had already begun. Lin Feng gritted his teeth as he resisted the static energy. The first part of the journey was extremely important. Whether or not he could enter the Golden Door depended on it. Of course, he couldn't succeed in one go, because the static energy's characteristic was the stronger you were, the stronger it would be. The closer he got to the Golden Door, the more this was the case. If he wanted to succeed in one go and directly enter the Golden Door, it was absolutely impossible. There had to be a balance between speed and resistance. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly slowed down. This was because if he continued to move at full speed, the static energy would cover the sky and cover the earth, making it even harder to deal with. One high and one low, one fast and one slow. As Lin Feng slowed down, Wu Jin appeared and instantly erupted with power to attract the static energy. Whoosh! The pressure on Lin Feng suddenly lessened. While maintaining his speed, he continued to change directions, moving towards the edge of the area. Lin Feng could sense every part of the Coral Imperial Palace, so he clearly knew how much static energy there was. It was different every time, depending on the position and number of static river monsters. Of course, the static energy near the edge of the area was usually much smaller. He entered the range of 1,000 meters. Chapter 16:21. Whoosh! Lin Feng felt the pressure decrease to the minimum, and his speed increased explosively again. The static energy attracted by the Ursanin could not react in time. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had reached the 300 mark. Full force. To Lin Feng, although the 2 consecutive bursts were perfect, the energy consumption was still there. Clenching his teeth, Lin Feng continuously used his ultimate move and defense. Finally, Lin Feng stepped into the 100 mark. This was his previous goal, but at this time his physical strength was almost exhausted, and the static energy was quite strong. If he wanted to go back, his body would not be able to support it. However, he did not think of going back. Last 100 Lin Feng was very determined. His goal was only the golden door in front of him. 80 meters, 60 meters, 40 meters. In the last 100 every 10 meters was a huge test. Because the static energy came from the golden door, the closer he got, the stronger the static energy was. Lin Feng used all his strength, using the 2 defensive treasures to resist, and his body was on the verge of collapse. But the energy was still strong. Most importantly, Lin Feng had never given up from the very beginning. Resisting the pressure of the static energy, Lin Feng approached the golden door step by step. The veins on his arms bulged, and the blood vessels under his skin could be seen. Lin Feng suddenly roared, and his tyrannical blood vessels supported the final burst of energy, scattering the static energy. Ta! Lin Feng stepped into the golden door. There was still some energy left in his body, and although the process was a little off, he had achieved 90%. Lin Feng's mouth curved in satisfaction, and a golden light flashed in front of his eyes, and his heart beat faster. What was behind the golden door? Would it be the treasure of destiny? The answer was no. Another wave of energy came crashing down, and it was even stronger than the previous one. Lin Feng's expression changed, and he knew that things weren't looking good. This time, the energy came crashing down, and it was even faster and stronger than before. Other than leaving, there was no other way. Although he was unwilling, Lin Feng knew that he was already at his limit. Although the treasure of destiny was good, it was not to the extent that he would lose his life. His gaze quickly swept across this new area. It was basically the same as before, with only a few minor differences. The area here was even larger, and the light that enveloped it was not white, but a kind of translucent light. Lin Feng prepared to use the Chaos Space Gem as he defended himself against the powerful energy attacks. Suddenly, that's not right. Lin Feng's eyes widened in shock. The surging and powerful energy was completely different from the one before. Although the level of the energy was also very high, so high that he was unable to resist it, this was a completely different kind of energy. Moreover, the energy this time was very familiar. Spatial energy. Lin Feng suddenly understood. In the next moment, Lin Feng's soul consciousness changed, and his main body appeared. The tyrant dragon avatar, which had almost exhausted all of its power, disappeared. Even though his true body was weaker than the tyrant dragon clone, there was no difference between their cultivation bases and life force levels. Most importantly, my bloodline is very strong, special, and powerful. It was even stronger than the bloodline awakened by the tyrant dragon avatar. Divine runes appeared one after another. Lin Feng's consciousness returned, and his mind was clear. As the divine runes bloomed, the black whirlpool appeared again, and a strange phenomenon appeared. Hiss, hiss, the black whirlpool rapidly absorbed the spatial energy like a whirlpool, as if it had been hungry for a long time. As expected, Lin Feng smiled. The black whirlpool itself was a space-type bloodline, so it was extremely compatible with spatial energy. It had not absorbed it just once or twice. Although releasing his main body would expose his identity. He could not care so much at the moment. Obtaining the treasure of destiny was the most important thing. Moreover, the king of North Chan River, Tang Ji, was already dead. His main body might not be discovered. Whoosh! Since he had released his main body, Lin Feng did not hesitate anymore. The black whirlpool absorbed the boundless spatial energy, and the divine runes appeared. Lin Feng's speed exploded, and he released his heaven centipede cultivation to investigate everything around him. The changes in energy, the location, and any anomaly. He had to be fast. This was because the spatial energy here was very strong. Like the static energy, it would strengthen with time and other factors. And the absorption of his black whirlpool had a limit. When it exceeded the limit, his body would have to bear the boundless spatial energy, and he would be instantly locked down by it. Along the way, he passed by countless river monster statues that stood there, unable to move at all. He did not want to be like them. Time was running out. The black whirlpool's absorption gradually reached saturation. The time left for Lin Feng was dripping down like water droplets. Hurry! Lin Feng was burning with anxiety, but the more it was like this, the more he had to maintain absolute calm. This area was very big. There! Lin Feng's eyes widened. In terms of sensing ability, the Tyrant Dragon avatar was far inferior to his main body. But his main body's heaven centipede cultivation was much stronger than the Tyrant Dragon avatar's soul. At this moment, he quickly found another place where the energy was changing. He did not go to the weak place, but went to the strong place. Because the stronger the spatial energy was, the more likely it was the source. Hua, Lin Feng erupted to the limit. A translucent light streaked across his eyes like a shooting star, gradually fading away. Another resplendent golden door of light appeared in front of him. Compared to the previous one, the light was brighter and the area was larger. A strong attractive force caused his main body's heart to beat faster and his blood to boil. It's there! Lin Feng felt the cells in his body begin to stir. A strong attractive force came from the golden door of light, and the closer he got, the stronger it became. In the depths of his soul, something seemed to be pried open. What a strong attractive force! Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The black whirlpool's rotation had reached its limit, and the berserk spatial energy came crashing down. At this moment, he was only a foot away from the golden door of light. Boom! Go away from me! Lin Feng shouted, and all the energy in his body erupted, releasing it to the greatest extent. Previously, he had been relying on the black whirlpool to resist, saving the energy of other laws. At this moment, he poured it out. Divine runes, bloodline power, and the power of laws were strong enough to create a path. Lin Feng clenched his teeth, and his eyes were filled with excitement. Chi! His figure disappeared, and Lin Feng entered the golden door of light. His body was bathed in powerful energy. At this moment, he knew that he had truly entered the deepest part of the Coral Imperial Palace. That strong attractive force was definitely not a lie. And that fatal feeling, it was the call of a treasure. The treasure of destiny. Hua, his eyes brightened, and all the suppressive power disappeared in an instant. Lin Feng's heart relaxed, and his body relaxed completely. He did not need to fight, and there were no more restrictions. Ta! His feet touched the ground, and Lin Feng's heart condensed. His vision and consciousness recovered. Lightly breathing, Lin Feng's eyes slowly swept over and suddenly brightened. This is Chapter 16:22. It was a rock, a pure white exterior with a translucent interior. This was a strange boulder that emitted powerful energy as though it could breathe. Every time it breathed, it would gently vibrate, producing vigorous space and time energy. The boulder wasn't particularly big. At least, it wasn't as big as a mountain. However, its existence made everything else pale in comparison. The entire space was lonely, and only this boulder existed. However, the energy here was the most stable and abundant. A faint layer of energy enveloped the strange boulder. This was a magnetic field generated by the boulder itself, which firmly caught a portion of the energy around it. A destiny treasure? Lin Feng frowned slightly. It was completely different from what he had imagined. He didn't know if this strange boulder was a destiny treasure, but it was clearly not something he could control. Just like the powerful energy it emitted, it far exceeded his current strength level. The moment Lin Feng came into contact with it, he knew. However, as for his main body, putting aside how this strange boulder was for the time being, the cultivation environment here was top-notch. Standing here, he could feel the abundant space energy and the profound, true meaning of space. Compared to this, the space secret realm pales in comparison. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Although there's no destiny treasure, it's not inferior to a destiny treasure to me. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Whether it was his main body or the tyrant dragon avatar, they both needed an environment like this to cultivate and comprehend the true meaning of space, improve their life levels, and become stronger. This was because both of them were only immortal chaos wholes. Their comprehension of the realm and combat power had long surpassed the immortal chaos whole level. However, their comprehension of space was shackled, making it difficult for them to cross this level. This was especially true for the Tyrant Dragon avatar, whose combat power had already reached the peak of the Black Region Master level. I wonder if there's enough time, Lin Feng said inwardly. He carefully observed the hourglass in his mind. Endless sand was still falling. Observing the ratio of sand and the speed of flow, he quickly came to a conclusion. Around 350 to 380 days. Lin Feng nodded. That was about a year. He still couldn't estimate the exact time, but this was enough. There's still time. Lin Feng evaluated and was very confident that the Tyrant Dragon clone would be able to comprehend the true intent of space. As for his main body, there was no need to talk about it. His main body's spatial aptitude was already much stronger than the Tyrant Dragon clone. At the intersection, the Whirlpool King's Cave. Many huge whirlpools swallowed and spat out the pure energy of the Chan River. Like stars surrounding the moon, they revolved around an elegant young man in white. He had a resolute face, sharp eyes, and an air of superiority. The most eye-catching thing was that there was a bright rune on his forehead. It was surrounded by a bright halo, flashing with a proud luster. Wangzhu, congratulations, Your Highness. Eldest Princess Tang Luanfeng knelt on one knee. There was a trace of unwillingness in her eyes, but she quickly hid it. Some things were destined to happen. She had done everything she could, but in the end, she only ended up helping someone else. He was so close. Tang Luanfeng clenched her fists so tightly that her veins popped out. If it wasn't for the fact that she had damaged her strongest defensive artifact in the battle with Tang Feng, she would definitely have won the battle for the King's Pearl. But it was too late to say anything now. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. She had lost completely. According to the oath, she could only submit to Yuan Zhe. Even if it wasn't what she wanted, she had no other choice. It's all because of him. Eldest Princess Tang Luanfeng hated Lin Feng to the bone. She wanted to skin him alive and tear his bones apart. She had worked so hard for so long, but in the end, it was all for naught because of him. Whoosh! Yuan Zhe opened his eyes. The Wangzhu rune on his forehead shone even brighter, as if a king had descended. He had an innate, arrogant, and powerful aura. His bright eyes were filled with confidence. He was the king, the new king of the North Chan River, Yuan Zhe. There was nothing that could stop him anymore, because he was invincible in the North Chan River. Pong! Yuan Zhe's aura suddenly bloomed. The fusion with the Wangzhu had caused his strength to increase by leaps and bounds. Eldest Princess Tang Luanfeng bit her lips. She was both envious and jealous. The Yuan clan's talent was very strong. She knew why Yuan Zhe's strength had increased so quickly. It was because he had devoured the original strongest expert of the North Chan River, King Yanwang. This was a super talent that the Yuan clan could only use once in their lives. But once was enough. After devouring King Yanwang, Yuan Zhe's strength had greatly increased. Not only had he broken through to the immortal chaos hole, but he had also become a black domain master after a bit of fusion. After that, He had eaten away at King Yinwang step by step, absorbing all of his strength. After becoming the crown prince and leaving the golden ancestral land, Yuan Zhe's strength had been on par with King Yinwang's back then. But now, after obtaining the Wang Zhu's recognition and fusing with the Wang Zhu, Yuan Zhe's strength had reached a level that eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng couldn't resist. This was one of the reasons why she had submitted. The current Yuan Zhe's strength had already surpassed the Black Domain Master Realm. He had reached the peak Black Domain Master Realm, not to mention the current her. Even at her peak, she still wasn't Yuan Zhe's match. Although Tang Feng's strength wasn't bad, the eldest princess knew that after obtaining the Wang Zhu, Yuan Zhe would definitely become the king of the North Chan River. Tang Feng would definitely lose against Yuan Zhe, unless he can obtain other treasures of destiny. Tang Wanfeng thought, but she didn't care. The possibility was very small. Even if he had heaven-defying luck and obtained a treasure of destiny, so what? The Wang Zhu had its own spirituality and could directly fuse with it. However, other treasures of destiny were different. Just fusing with them would take a long time. Would it be in time? The battle for the king of the North Chan River had already been decided. Although the eldest princess didn't want to submit to Yuan Zhe's strength was strong enough now. At the very least, eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng was relieved. Most importantly, Yuan Zhe had promised her that he would kill Tang Feng with his own hands. Vengeance! Ha! Ha ha! Yuan Zhe looked up to the sky and laughed. His eyes were filled with ambition and incomparable arrogance. He had been enduring. Although the Yong clan was very talented and had a very strong background, it was not very useful in the fight for the king of the Northern Chan River. Here, every checkpoint was real swords and spears, and no one would be merciful to him. He had hidden part of his strength and walked step by step until now. Finally, he could hold his head high. He didn't need to look at others' faces anymore. He didn't need to keep a low profile. Right now, he was the king, the new king of the North Chan River. I still need 2 more. Yuan Zhe crossed his hands behind his back. He was very confident. Tang Feng and Violet Electric. If they can submit, that's good. If they can't, Yuan Zhe's eyes flashed with killing intent. He showed no mercy. To him, there was no such thing as friends. Right now, those who submitted to him would live. Those who opposed him would die. Chapter 1623. Coral Imperial Palace. Time passed quickly. The surging spatial energy was constantly being absorbed by Lin Feng. His main body and avatar were cultivating at the same time. From this, one could see the difference in spatial aptitude. In less than 10 days, his main body had comprehended a trace of spatial true intent and advanced to Black Region Master. Indeed, it was only a trace, because the spatial true intent here was too complex and profound. Spatial seal is definitely a high-level spatial true intent. Lin Feng was very clear that spatial seal was an entire level higher than spatial suppression. Therefore, even though his main body had only comprehended a trace, he had already broken through to Black Region Master. Because the spatial true intent quality was too high. But it was even more difficult for the Tyrant Dragon avatar. His spatial aptitude wasn't that great to begin with, and to comprehend high-level spatial true intent was even more difficult. Not to mention 10 days, even 100 days had passed without any progress. He could only continue to comprehend. There was no other way. It's too late to find another destiny treasure. Lin Feng was very clear in his heart. Even if his luck was heaven-defying, it might not be compatible. Moreover, with such luck, there was no need to hold too much hope. Rather than that, he might as well be straightforward. He couldn't find any other destiny treasures, but that didn't mean there was none. Wasn't the Imperial Pearl one? In his mind, apart from the huge hourglass, there was also a scene of a region and a resplendent light. If he guessed correctly, that was where the light pearl was. If I take his light pearl, I'll be the king of the North Chan River. Lin Feng's goal was very clear. Even if he couldn't take the light pearl, killing his opponent would be the same. Sometimes, things didn't need to be so complicated. It's still early. Let's wait a little longer. If the Tyrant Dragon avatar still hasn't broken through, I'll leave. Lin Feng wasn't willing to leave just like that. He longed for a breakthrough and for the Tyrant Dragon avatar to advance. Now that the Tyrant Dragon avatar's realm and combat strength were complete, it was only left with spatial comprehension that shackled its strength. This was a threshold that had to be crossed. 150th day, 200 days, 250th day. Time was getting more and more pressing. The pressure on the Tyrant Dragon clone was also becoming greater and greater. To normal people, this would make them nervous, but to Lin Feng, this was a source of motivation, and his rate of enlightenment continued to increase. It wasn't just the Tyrant Dragon clone, it was the main body. The true body's comprehension speed was too shocking. Hua, so this is what spatial sealing is all about. Lin Feng's vermilion bird heart comprehended. He was completely immersed in a vast sea of laws of the true intent of space. His comprehension deepened unceasingly, as though he was bathing in it. At this moment, Shua, the originally tranquil and strange boulder, blossomed with a bright luster. It was incomparably joyful. Beams of light shot out from the boulder like a bridge, connecting the main body and the boulder. Wah! Lin Feng's heart stirred, and he instantly entered the world of the boulder. Roaming the horizon of a universe ocean, it was as if he had returned to the unknown chaos, when the heavens and earth were just beginning, and the universe was in a misty state. The aura of life presented a primitive ecology, and the whole world was like an undeveloped territory. Lin Feng was completely astonished. At this moment, he was using a unique gaze to observe the entire universe. The stars changed, life was born, the clouds passed, the earth opened, and the whole world was full of vitality, flourishing and rising. He had turned into a boulder. So this is the origin of the strange boulder. Lin Feng instantly understood. This boulder came from a very early epoch in the universe, and it was very similar to the 10,000 origin mustard stone. The long years had caused the boulder to change, and it had absorbed enough energy from the heavens and earth to produce a trace of intelligence. Because of the limitations of its own characteristics, its intelligence could only reach this point. Comprehending the heavens and earth, and harmonizing with the boulder, Lin Feng's main body's cultivation level suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. Not only did it increase his comprehension of space, but it also increased his comprehension of the universe, and his heart sublimated. Perhaps it wasn't very helpful in increasing his strength, but his future path would be clearer, faster, and more precise. He would no longer be confused and hesitant. I got it. At this moment, under the influence of the main body, the Tyrant Dragon clone also blossomed. The true meaning of space, which he originally didn't understand, suddenly became much simpler and more comprehensible. Lin Feng looked at the strange boulder and smiled. The communication between the strange boulder and the main body was like a boulder opening its arms. The Tyrant Dragon clone naturally benefited greatly, and its efficiency increased greatly. Otherwise, let alone a few years or even a few decades, it might not be able to comprehend even a trace of the true meaning of space. Now, the Tyrant Dragon clone had stepped into it. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After the Tyrant Dragon clone reached that level, the vast sea of laws allowed him to comprehend twice the results with half the effort. In less than 10 years, he had already made some small gains. On the 30th year, his comprehension reached another level. On the 303rd year of contact with the strange boulder, whoosh, the Tyrant Dragon clone condensed a bright luster, and its powerful body was wrapped in spatial energy. The strange boulder still formed a law bridge with the main body, but strands of spatial energy seeped out of the boulder and directly entered the body of the Tyrant Dragon clone. Roar! An excited roar resounded throughout the world. Feeling his strength increase, his life force sublimate, his combat strength, and his physique all increased in an instant, the Tyrant Dragon clone had officially become a Black Region Master. Moreover, it had directly skipped the ordinary and advanced levels. A peak Black Region Master. The title of King of the North Chan River is mine. Lin Feng felt incomparably confident. With absolute strength, there was no need to fear any opponent. If he met First Princess Tang Luanfeng again, No matter how many defensive treasures she had, he had full confidence that he could capture her. It was time to leave. After more than 10 years of fusion and consolidating his new strength, Lin Feng prepared to leave. He had to leave some time for variables, just in case. Moreover, there was not much meaning for the Tyrant Dragon clone to continue staying here, because its spatial talent was too mediocre. In this aspect, the main body was the exact opposite. Too outstanding. Too monstrous. Even the strange boulder acknowledged the main body's spatial talent. This opportunity cannot be missed. Let the main body stay here and continue to cultivate. Lin Feng pondered for a long time before making a decision. With the main body's current strength, leaving might be a bit difficult, but soon, the main body's strength would greatly increase. Time to go. It's time to find the Queen Pearl and end this competition for the title of King of the North Chan River. Lin Feng smiled confidently. He did not open the Chaos Space Gem because there was no need for it. The current Tyrant Dragon clone's strength had increased by at least several times. If it could enter with its previous strength, how difficult would it be to leave now? After all, the Chaos Space Gem was precious, so it was best to save it. Lin Feng's expression was calm and natural as he left. Chapter 1624. While outside the Coral Palace, a towering figure appeared. The T-Rex clone. My strength has indeed increased a lot. Lin Feng's face was slightly pale, but his bright eyes were enough to explain everything. After becoming a peak Black Domain Master, his combat strength had increased significantly. There was no threshold to becoming a peak Black Domain Master. It was divided into Perfect, Peak, Invincible, and King of Black Domain. Lin Feng was close to Perfect. From using all his strength to enter the deepest part of the Coral Palace to being able to easily return from there, the changes were obvious. The increase in his strength gave him a lot of confidence. With Princess Tang Luanfeng's personality, she will definitely borrow Feng Zhe's strength. Lin Feng knew Princess Tang Luanfeng's personality very well. She was a ruthless woman who would do anything to achieve her goals. Knowing that she was weaker than him, she would definitely not fight him head-on. She would definitely think of other ways to deal with him, the simplest of which was to join forces with Feng Zhe. Previously, he was indeed somewhat apprehensive. But now, it doesn't matter even if the two of them come together. The hourglass image appeared in Lin Feng's mind. It was nearing the end, but there were still dozens of days left. To him, these dozens of days were more than enough. The Royal Pearl is over there. Lin Feng quickly locked onto the location and headed over. The ones who obtained the Royal Pearl could only be two members of the Chan River clan, either Feng Zhe or Princess Tang Luanfeng. Whoosh! Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast as he shuttled through the intersection. Although there were many river monsters, and they were stronger the further down he went, they were unable to stop Lin Feng. Along the way, he obtained all sorts of top-grade Chan River light, which consolidated his new strength and stabilized his combat strength. 7 days later. I'm here. Lin Feng sensed that the resplendent light on the hourglass was close at hand. In front of him was a whirlpool that looked like bubbles. From time to time, he could see river monsters appearing in the whirlpool. Looks like it's a secret realm like the Coral Palace. Lin Feng observed carefully. There were big and small whirlpools, and the river monsters that appeared in different whirlpools had different strengths. It was like a symbol of status. The stronger river monsters would enter and exit the big whirlpools, while the weaker ones would enter and exit the small whirlpools. The Royal Pearl is in this whirlpool. Lin Feng could sense it clearly. Yudanin, Goldblaze, you two stay here and guard this place. Lin Feng released Golden Flame, Old Demon, and Wu Jin, just in case. If he were to enter the Maelstrom and the other party were to come out, he would be in trouble. With Yudanin and Goldblaze's strength, even if they were to clash head-on with the other party, they might not necessarily lose, let alone hold the other party back. As for entering the whirlpool and facing the owner of the Royal Pearl, Lin Feng was not afraid at all. He alone was enough. They should all be able to enter the innermost part, but Lin Feng looked at the densely packed river monsters, clearly understanding the difficulty and danger of this secret realm. Once they entered the whirlpool, they would be besieged by thousands of river monsters. It would be very difficult to find a right path in this siege. The river monsters did not have high intelligence, nor did they know what it meant to retreat in the face of difficulties. Their attacks were wave after wave, like a suicidal bombardment. Once they entered, just the energy consumption alone would be huge. However, he had no choice. If they can enter and obtain the royal pearl, I can naturally enter as well. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In an instant, he flew out, surging battle intent filling his body. In an instant, the river monsters roared and attacked. Pung, pung, pung. His claws were sharp, and his tail was sharp. Not a single river monster could approach Lin Feng. It was as if he was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Lin Feng directly found the largest whirlpool and entered it. His body spun rapidly, and the centrifugal force was astonishing. Lin Feng maintained absolute clarity of mind, and his body's defense was condensed to the extreme. Boom! There were also river monsters attacking in the whirlpool, so he could not be careless. Fortunately, his body's defense was strong enough. Lin Feng's tail whip struck back, and the heavenly Dao Marrow Realm's blade, intent, directly killed a river monster that had advanced to Black Region Master. His claws slashed out like lightning, and several river monsters fell. The current Lin Feng, with every move, was a killing weapon. Mere river monsters could not do anything to him. Shua! The whirlpool's power weakened, and Lin Feng's spinning speed also slowed down. The light in front of him reappeared, but it was no different from before. There were still many whirlpools, and river monsters entered and exited each whirlpool in an endless stream. The same thing was when these river monsters saw him. They were all abnormally furious, roaring and attacking. Boom! 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 Lin Feng cut through the thorns, opening a path as fast as he could. He did not continue to fight, but chose to enter one of the whirlpools. After the trip to the Coral Palace, Lin Feng clearly knew that there was no end to killing the river monsters. It was not worth wasting energy for them. Before seeing the owner of the royal pearl, he had to conserve his strength to the greatest extent. Shua! Shua! Lin Feng kept entering the whirlpools. This place was like a whirlpool maze, and it was difficult to determine the direction. Every time, he chose the largest whirlpool. Although the danger was also the greatest, he believed that this was the right path. The right path. The ones coming out of the largest whirlpool must be the strongest river monsters. The deeper you go, the stronger the river monsters are. If the overall strength of the river monsters becomes stronger, then it proves that this is the right path. Otherwise, it's wrong. Analysis, thinking, action. Lin Feng kept trying. The whirlpool maze was not too fancy. The key was that you could withstand the continuous attacks of the river monsters, which required great strength. The other was the psychological factor. If you panicked, were nervous, afraid, or even retreated, then you were not far from failure. If these two things were done well, exploring the deepest part of the whirlpool maze could be said to be a certainty. It was only a matter of time. I can vaguely feel the aura of the royal pearl. Intuition told Lin Feng that he was approaching the royal pearl. The special aura of the treasure of destiny could not be hidden. He could even feel that the owner of the royal pearl was not the first Princess Tang Wanfeng. It's Yin Zhe. Lin Feng quickly killed a river monster. Sweeping his gaze, all the whirlpools entered his eyes and were eliminated one by one. Only one whirlpool was left, and no river monsters appeared. It's there. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he stepped into the whirlpool. A strong, strangling force attacked continuously. Although the whirlpool was spinning loudly, Lin Feng's heart was still as calm as a pool of water. The aura was getting closer and closer. The strength of the royal pearl seemed to be close at hand. The spinning speed gradually slowed down, and his heart surged. Lin Feng clenched his fists, and a cold battle intent spread out. What awaited him, there was definitely not something good. It was going to be a fierce battle. The final battle. Hua! Light flashed in front of his eyes. Lin Feng's battle intent reached the peak. Boom! Chapter 16:25. The moment it entered, Rays of sword light shot out like beams of light, instantly revealing their brilliance. Lin Feng was already prepared. The dark Yin cloak instantly dissipated the force, and his claws transformed into 10,000 fangs. He took the blow head-on and quickly counterattacked. Lin Feng was very confident in his current physical strength. He didn't need to look to know that it was the eldest princess, Tang Wanfeng. Lin Feng had fought her before and was very clear about her strength and moves. The last time he had defeated her, it had been very difficult, but this time was different. Things were different now. Chi. Lin Feng's attack arrived first despite being launched later. The instant the profound Yin cloak had taken away a portion of the first princess's power, Lin Feng's attack had already descended. His attack was even stronger and faster than before. Against the first princess, who had already lost 2 defensive chaos profound treasures in a row. Pung. The eldest princess howled miserably as she suffered heavy injuries. At this moment, an even fiercer and more terrifying attack came from behind. It had taken advantage of the gap in her strength to launch a sneak attack of relatively high quality. To Lin Feng, that aura was all too clear. The attack was like a hot knife through butter, focused on a single point. The terrifying power was condensed to the peak. This move was merciless. This was the battlefield. This was the battle for the king of the North Chan River. Yuanzhe, geocentric guard. Lin Feng instantly released another peak chaos profound treasure, geocentric guard. He had fused with another peak earth-type chaos profound treasure in order to enter the Coral Imperial Palace. The 6 Daos of the earth had the strongest defense and had the most defensive chaos profound treasures. Yuanzhe's attack was extremely fast and sharp. It directly collided with Lin Feng's final defensive trump card. With a loud roar, King Yanwang's strength was undoubtedly revealed. The geocentric guard was instantly shattered and its light dimmed. At this moment, the dark Yin cloak provided a second layer of defense that dissipated part of Yuanzhe's power. The 2 peak chaos profound treasures had reduced Yuanzhe's attack power by 80%. However, the remaining 20% was still not easy to deal with. Especially after fusing with the King's Pearl, Yuanzhe's current combat strength had reached the level of a peak Black Region Master. If Lin Feng was still in his immortal chaos whole state, he would definitely be heavily injured. But now, although he was injured, it wasn't serious. Especially after his bloodline had been strengthened, Lin Feng's physical strength was much stronger than before. His battle prowess, that was close to the perfect level of a top-notch master of the Black Domain, was not just for show. Bang! Lin Feng was sent flying. The blood turned into a bloody mist that drifted in the air. Yanzhe's lips curled into a cold smile. Although Lin Feng's defense was unexpectedly strong, he firmly believed that this move of his was enough to seriously injure Lin Feng, and even he was killed directly. Swoosh! With Yanzhe's cautiousness, he naturally wouldn't leave Lin Feng alone. After the sneak attack, Yuanzhe took advantage of the situation and flew away. He didn't even look at the first princess who had been severely injured by Lin Feng. To him, other than himself, nothing else was important. First Princess Tang Wanfeng was nothing. She was just a servant. Without any value, he was just a piece of trash. The king of Beichan River is mine. And Zay's eyes shone brightly. The ambition that he had been holding back all this time erupted at this moment. With strength and strategy, and Zay no longer needed to hide. He was the king, the new king of Beichan River. Die. Facing his former comrade, and Zay showed no mercy and decisively killed him. His white robe hid a terrifying killing intent. In his eyes, there were no so-called friends. In front of the temptation of the king of Beichan River, let alone a comrade, he would even kill his own family. Boom! Behind Zay, an illusory image of King Yanwang appeared. His battle strength exploded. The Nzay clan's innate ability was quite powerful. By devouring King Yanwang, they could even change their own bloodline. Right now, Nzay's innate ability was perfectly passed on to King Yanwang, including battle strength, battle style, experience, etc. There was no difference from King Yanwang. Right now, Nzay was like King Yanwang reborn. No, even stronger, because Nze had his own innate ability, and now that he had fused with the king's pearl, his forehead flashed with white light. Nze's entire body was covered in white light, and his strength increased explosively. The power of the king's pearl was quite strong. In Nze's eyes, the current Lin Feng was like a fish in a net, without any ability to resist. But bang! The tail whip with the force of 1,000 caddies contained the profound realm of the heavenly Tao. It was like a whip lashing out, but it also had the ferocity and valiance of a saber technique. Afterimages appeared in the void as it heavily bombarded. What? Nze's expression changed. His hands felt a violent tremor, and the web between his thumb and forefinger went numb. He clashed with Lin Feng directly. In this sudden exchange, no one gained the upper hand. The next instant, silver plateau saber technique, thorny stripe. Lin Feng quickly changed from defense to offense. His chest rose and fell rapidly. Although he was injured, his injuries weren't serious. It was within the range of what he could bear. His saber technique was bold and carefree, and it had an indomitable aura, just like the expression in Lin Feng's eyes. Firm, powerful. Although he didn't care about the position of King of North Chan River, he wasn't someone who could be bullied. In this world, there were some things that you couldn't ignore just because you didn't want them. Boom! Lin Feng's attacks, whether in terms of aura or power, were constantly climbing to the peak. Nze's expression changed. The strengthening of the royal pearl had increased his strength by a lot, but he was still quite a distance away from the perfect level of a peak master of darkness. In the face of Lin Feng's powerful attacks, Nze was forced to retreat continuously. He was shocked. How can he be so strong? Impossible. How is this possible? I fused with the royal pearl and devoured King Yanwang. My strength should be much stronger than his. Nze's face was ashen, and his entire body shook violently. Although his psychological quality was quite good, the difference in strength between him and Lin Feng was still hard for him to accept. He clearly knew Lin Feng's strength, and it was because of this that he was certain that he would be able to obtain the position of King of North Chan River. But now everything had changed. Lin Feng's strength had become too terrifying. Boom! Nze was not at a disadvantage in the same earth attack and law power, but his physical strength was completely overwhelmed. How can his body be stronger than mine? To Nze, this was a shocking and unbelievable sight. He had devoured King Yanwang, who was known to have the strongest physique in the North Chan River, and had even fused with the royal pearl. Ignoring other things, how could his body lose? Nze could not understand, but the truth was in front of him. The current Lin Feng was stronger than Nze, much stronger. Silver plateau saber technique, thorn slash. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as he gathered all his strength and blasted out with his saber. The world shook, and Nze, who had already been defeated repeatedly, could no longer resist. He vomited blood and was heavily injured, collapsing in the Whirlpool King Cave. Outside his body, the royal pearl was still emitting a faint light, not leaving him. This was the royal pearl that symbolized the king of North Chan River. A quarter of the destiny treasure. It had astonishing energy, but having it did not mean that one would definitely become the king of North Chan River. Only one strength was the deciding factor. You've lost, brother, and Lin Feng stood in front of Nze, his eyes sparkling. Chapter 16:26. His eyes were lifeless. Yuan Shiai's was in a daze, his face pale. He had been defeated. He had been utterly defeated. Even if he had completely merged with the royal pearl and devoured King Yanwang, he was confident that he had surpassed Tang Ji at his peak and could become the new king of North Chan River. But reality was cruel. He had been defeated by Tang Feng, a crushing defeat. Hand over the royal pearl. Lin Feng looked at Yuan Shiai's with bright eyes. To become the king of North Chan River, the royal pearl was a must. Only by completely merging with the royal pearl would one be able to fulfill the condition to succeed the position. And right now, the royal pearl was in Yuan Shiai's body. You win, brother Lin Feng. Yuan Shiai's lay on the ground, looking at Lin Feng and revealing a weak smile. Lin Feng nodded. If it wasn't necessary, he didn't plan to kill Yuan Shi'ai's. After all, they were fated to meet. The royal pearl is in my body. Brother Tang Feng, you just need to press your hand on my forehead and the royal pearl will be yours. Yuan Shi'ai smiled weakly. There was no energy in his body, and his face was lonely. His appearance was like that of a dying man. Lin Feng looked at Yuan Shi'ai's and nodded. Then, he reached out with his right hand to press Yuan Shi'ai's forehead and absorb the royal pearl. It took a long time to describe, yet it happened in an instant. It was like a deathly still swamp had suddenly emitted an enormous aura, and a terrifying devil with 2 horns on its forehead roared as it opened its bloody mouth and directly bit towards Lin Feng. Its speed was extremely fast. It was so fast that it was impossible to block. It was completely unexpected. Yuan Shi'ai's aura reached its peak in an instant, exploding and completely suppressing Lin Feng's aura. Yuan Shi'ai's handsome face became incomparably ferocious. His eyebrows shone with a cold black light, as if he was a mad demon. Innate Devour, the Shi'ai's clan's super powerful innate talent. Why bother? Lin Feng was unperturbed as he stood there, as if he had long known about this. From Violet Electric, he had learned of Yuan Shi'ai's secret and the Shi'ai's clan's innate talent. Indeed, an ordinary Shi'ai's clan member could only devour once in their lifetime. However, this did not mean that he would let his guard down. Having interacted with Yuan Shi'ai's before, Lin Feng knew his character very well. He was good at enduring and grasping opportunities. He definitely could not be underestimated. This was indeed the case. Yanzei's talent, Devour, could be used a second time. However, what? Yuan Shi'ai's expression changed greatly. Using his demonic innate ability, Devour, he felt as if he had bitten into the hardest rock in the world. Not only was he unable to crush the rock, he had even shattered his teeth. It was an incomparably large and pure soul, far surpassing that of the Chan River demon race. You are not from the Chan River Yao clan. Changzhe stared at Lin Feng in shock, his eyes filled with fear. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. In the blink of an eye, his right hand had already pressed on Feng Zhe's forehead. Vigorous earth energy instantly erupted, and with a bang, it violently blasted out like a storm. I'm human. Lin Feng's voice was calm. He looked at Qi Zhe, whose eyes were filled with shock and whose soul had instantly dispersed into oblivion. He gently shook his head. He wanted to win too much. Otherwise, he would have let him live. After obtaining the royal pearl, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He looked at this final token and instantly fused it into his body. Buzz, buzz. The royal pearl let out a trembling sound, as if it was resisting. Lin Feng let out a soft cry of surprise. The Chan River demon race might not be able to tell, but treasures had spirits. This was especially true for the royal pearl, which surpassed the level of the Black Region Master. It was even more intelligent. Clearly, it could not sense any Chan River energy from his body. It was unwilling to fuse with him. I'm afraid it's not up to you. Lin Feng smiled. The royal pearl did not have much energy. It was a treasure that strengthened one's soul. Ordinary physical treasures might have a hard time subduing it, but souls were different. He had the 10,000 origin mustard stone. It was one of the strongest soul treasures. Lin Feng directly brought the royal pearl into the 10,000 origin mustard stone and fused with it. Although it might take a bit longer, it did not matter. Sooner or later, the royal pearl would completely fuse with him and become a part of his soul. Yanzei was already dead, and Violet Electric had signed a soul contract. There was only one obstacle left on her path to becoming the king of North Chan River, eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng. Right now, she was heavily injured. Walking in front of the pale-faced eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng, Lin Feng looked down at her beautiful face. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she stared at him. Submit or die, Lin Feng said decisively. He would not show mercy to the fairer sex because reality did not allow him to do so. After all, he was limited by the rules. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng coldly snorted. Her face was filled with indignation as she gritted her teeth. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Why are you speaking so much nonsense? Lin Feng glanced at Tang Wanfeng. You should know that I have obtained the king's pearl and will soon become the king of North Chan River. Even if you are unwilling to submit to me now, when the time comes, you will still have to submit, unless you choose to end your own life. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's face paled, and her voluptuous body trembled slightly. Lin Feng saw this and smiled inwardly. With eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's stubborn personality, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, she would not give up. Even if she was beaten to death, she would not choose to commit suicide. If you are willing to submit to me now, I will give you the same treatment as Violet Electric. Lin Feng said, you will have enough freedom. I will not force you to do anything that will humiliate your dignity. On the contrary, I will train you well. But if you are not willing, I can't guarantee what I will do if you force me to submit. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's face turned cold. She was so angry that her limbs trembled. I will give you 3 hours to consider. Lin Feng closed his eyes and recovered his strength. The whirlpools around him spun, filling the Chan River with energy. You can choose to escape. I will not stop you. But I can tell you that you will not be able to defeat me in a year. When the time comes, you will bear the consequences. Lin Feng's words made a sound. The fight for the throne of the North Chan River was coming to an end. He did not know how long it would take for him to fuse with the Imperial Pearl. Therefore, rather than wasting time here, it was better to force the eldest princess to submit. Then, he would directly become the king of the North Chan River. If eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng was unwilling, he would not waste time. It didn't matter if he had one more or one less servant like her. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng's face was pale. She looked at Lin Feng as if she was looking at a demon. She hated that she was not strong enough. She hated that she had failed at the last step. First, she had submitted to Yuan Zhe. Now, you can slowly think about it, Lin Feng said again. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng suddenly sighed. She looked as if she had aged decades. Her bright red eyelids drooped. There was no more ambition in her eyes, only loneliness and helplessness. She had failed. There was no chance for her to turn things around. I agree. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng bit her bright red lips and said word by word. Chapter 16:27. Lin Feng was not surprised. Eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng was not a Chan River Yao who placed her dignity first. In fact, she was more likely to compromise than Violet Electric. She was ambitious and stubborn, so she would not easily give up her life, even as a slave. Because if she lost her life, she would lose everything. Whoosh! A ray of light appeared outside Tang Wanfeng's body. An invisible bond connected her and Lin Feng. One side was bright, the other dark, as if they were subordinates. The light flashed, and Tang Wanfeng's dim eyes flashed with a hint of loneliness. Greetings, master. Tang Wanfeng knelt on one knee. Lin Feng nodded. There was an additional layer of perception and control in his soul. The new soul contract was established. Instantly, the entire area rumbled as if there was an earthquake. A vigorous voice resounded in his mind, and the Imperial Pearl in his body released a surge of energy. Congratulations, King of Northern Chan. Ha ha! The new King of Northern Chan is not bad. Not bad at all. There were 3 different figures. They appeared through the Imperial Pearl as if they were seeing it with their own eyes. The one in the lead had a white beard that reached his waist. His white eyebrows were like 2 hooks that protruded from his eyes. He had a kind smile on his face. The one behind him had unkempt hair. He looked unkempt, like a savage, but he was actually hiding something. His eyes were bright, and his face was full of smiles. The other one behind him was an ice-cold beauty with a face as cold as ice. Her face was oval, and her skin was like snow. Her long hair flowed down like a waterfall. She looked otherworldly. I am the king of Eastern Chan, the white-bearded elder said kindly. They're the king of Southern Chan and the king of Western Chan. You will know them in the future. The king of Eastern Chan introduced with a smile. King of Northern Chan leads the Northern Chan River and protects the Chan River clan. If there is anything you do not understand or cannot solve, you can ask me through the Imperial Pearl. Sometimes come find me at the Southern Chan River, King of Northern Chan. The savage king of Southern Chan said warmly. The cold king of Western Chan's red lips were seductive, but he did not speak. Lin Feng also reacted and softly said, "All right, please take care of me in the future." Out of the 4 Chan rivers, the North Chan River was the weakest. The North Continent was also the weakest in the Tung Chi continent. Whether it was the Eastern Chan King, the Southern Chan King, or the Western Chan King, they were all stronger than him. Lin Feng knew this very well. This was especially true for the king of Dong Chan, who had a benevolent and harmless smile. His strength was even more unfathomable. There are winged monarchs in the East, South, and West continents. To be able to preserve the bloodline of the Chan River demon race under the threat of the winged emperor, the 3 Chan kings are truly powerful. Lin Feng's consciousness left the king's pearl and returned to the Whirlpool King's cave. There was always someone better than you. Although he was currently invincible in Beichan River, his strength was still inferior to the other kings of Sanchan. However, the fact that he was able to become the new Northern Chan River and obtain the trust of the 3 great Chan kings was already inconceivable. Thinking back, he had only joined the competition for the position of king of the North Chan River in order to temper himself. He had never thought that he would reach this stage. Fate made fools of people. Even the king's pearl, which I could not fuse with before, is now fused with me. Lin Feng could not help but smile. Although he could not use the power of the king's pearl, he did not really need it. To him, the king's pearl was enough as a keepsake. True strength did not depend on external objects. Congratulations, master. Tang Wanfeng knelt on one knee and congratulated him. With her knowledge, she could already tell what had happened from Lin Feng's abnormal behavior. Her eyes were filled with envy, but there was no jealousy. After forming a soul contract, the contract would be deeply ingrained in change. In Tang Wanfeng's heart, Lin Feng was the most important person. After her master, that was her true intention. Lin Feng looked at Tang Wanfeng and said, "I know you did not submit willingly. You have always been pursuing the position of King of Beichan. Now, I will fulfill your wish." His voice was indifferent. Tang Wanfeng was stunned. "In the future, you will have full authority over all matters in Beichan River." Lin Feng looked at Tang Wanfeng and said, "I will not force you. Are you willing?" "I am willing to share master's burden." Tang Wanfeng was overjoyed. She bit her red lips, and her delicate body trembled as she bowed. She originally thought that after submitting to Lin Feng, there would be a dark process. She would lose her freedom, her dignity, and everything. She did not expect that she would obtain the position of king of Beichan River. This was real control. Tang Wanfeng was very grateful to Lin Feng. All along, she had sacrificed everything for this position. She wanted to succeed and become the sovereign of Beichan River. However, she failed. She failed again and even became a prisoner. She was almost in despair. However, the heavens closed all the doors and opened a window for her. "King of Beichan," Lin Feng muttered softly and shook his head with a smile. After safely leaving the Whirlpool King cave, the river monsters would no longer attack him due to the existence of the King's Pearl. He could enter and leave this place as he wished. It was much more convenient. However, there was nothing he wanted to explore at the moment. The T-Rex clone had just been promoted to Black Region Master and had not fully stabilized his strength. He was not in a hurry to improve his strength. As for his main body, his cultivation in the Coral Imperial Palace had just begun. With countless light of Beichan River, my main body strength will soon rise to a whole new level. Lin Feng was very satisfied. In terms of aptitude and potential, his main body surpassed the T-Rex clone by a large margin. He would soon make up for what he lagged behind. "It's time to leave." Lin Feng sighed softly. Beichan Royal Palace. Greetings, King of Beichan River. Under the leadership of eldest Princess Tang Wanfeng and Violet Electric, the Beichan River monsters all knelt on one knee and bowed respectfully. Among them were the top 10 experts of Beichan River. In fact, Many super experts had died in the struggle for the position of king of Beichan River. Not to mention others, just the deaths of the two strongest experts, Aurora and King Yanwang, was a huge loss to Beichan River. However, where there was loss, there was gain. Beichan River did not lack experts. As long as there was enough light of Beichan River of high quality, Beichan River's experts would emerge one after another. Most importantly, Lin Feng was not afraid of talent. He was not as afraid as the other kings of Beichan River. They were afraid that the Beichan River monsters with high potential would be stronger than them and take the throne. In the future, Tang Wanfeng will be in charge of all matters of Beichan River. Lin Feng's first order after taking the throne stunned the Beichan River monsters. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't spend too much energy on meaningless trifling matters if he directly became a hands-off shopkeeper. This was not what he was after. As long as he had enough strength, authority would be at his fingertips. Your Majesty, should we return to Beichan Royal Palace first? Tang Wanfeng asked respectfully. Lin Feng shook his head and looked at Tang Wanfeng. I want to see her first. The seventh princess, Tang Xian'er. It was because of her that he had gotten involved in the struggle for the throne of Beichan River. Now, he had already succeeded. Chapter 1628. Northern Chan Region, Northern Underworld Heavenly Prison. This was a place to imprison criminals. Previously, Northern Chan Region was under the jurisdiction of Tang Ji. After first Princess Tang Wanfeng betrayed him, Tang Ji was severely injured. Almost the entire Northern Chan Region fell into Tang Wanfeng's hands, including the Northern Underworld Heavenly Prison. Greetings, Great Commander. The jailers bowed respectfully. Dressed in black armor and covered in green scales, I Ching walked past with his head held high. He responded coldly. His cold and arrogant expression made him look like a proud son of the heavens. He was the seventh Princess Tang Xian'er's bodyguard commander. Later on, he joined first Princess Tang Wanfeng. Now, he was the great commander of the Northern Underworld Heavenly Prison and had real power. What were you talking about just now? I Ching suddenly stopped and asked coldly. The jailers looked at each other. One of the braver ones cupped his hands and said, Great Commander, I heard that the new Northern Chan region has been decided. Is that true? I Ching sneered and looked at them with disdain. It has something to do with you. The jailers were angry, but they did not dare to offend I Ching. They smiled apologetically and said, I'm just curious. Do your job well. You have no right to ask about other things. Regardless of who the new Northern Chan region is, it has nothing to do with you. I Ching snorted arrogantly and lectured them. Yes, Great Commander. The jailers responded. I Ching frowned unconsciously. He would be lying if he said he did not care. He was also worried. As the saying goes, a new gentleman brings in new subordinates. Who knew what the new Northern Chan region was like and what his temper was like? It would be best if it was the first princess, but what if it was not? As long as I am willing to swear loyalty to the new Northern Chan region and show my loyalty, there shouldn't be any problems. I Ching thought to himself. He had already made his plans. Countless experts have died in the battle for the Northern Chan region. I will definitely be put in an important position. I Ching was smart. He did not participate in the battle for the Northern Chan region. He knew his limits. I Ching knew that he was not strong enough and had insufficient talent. Since that was the case, he might as well stay put and not seek death with his ambitions. When the new king took office, he would naturally benefit. Just as he was thinking, suddenly, creak, the door to the Dark North Heavenly Prison was pushed open heavily. The darkness inside was instantly illuminated, revealing a ray of light. I Ching frowned slightly and looked up at the figure shrouded in light on the stairs. His heart trembled. It was a Chan River Demon Clan member who was gradually revealing his prowess. His body seemed huge and cumbersome, but it had a terrifying power that made one's heart tremble. His eyes shone brightly and exuded an imposing aura. He stood there like an existence of heavenly might. I Ching quickly scanned through the experts of the North Chan River in his mind, but none of them matched his description. He rolled his eyes and shouted, Who are you? Why did you barge into the North Underworld Heavenly Prison? How dare you? A tender shout rang out from behind him. At the same time, it was mixed with a thunderous shout. I Ching's 5 viscera and 6 bowels shook violently. He staggered backward, his face pale. Behind the huge figure, there was a man and a woman. The woman was dressed in a purple gown, which wrapped around her sexy body. Her sexy red lips were tightly pursed, and her almond-shaped eyes were filled with anger. The man was 20 feet tall, and his terrifyingly sturdy body was like steel. He clenched his iron fists tightly, releasing a terrifying power that could shatter the void. Ziruxuan, Tang Dingshan. One was a scholar, and the other was a warrior. They were the left and right arms of the eldest princess, Tang Wanfeng. How dare you disrespect the king of North Chan? You're courting death. Tang Dingshan was expressionless. He punched out with his iron fists, and the entire North Underworld heavenly prison trembled. The water of the Chan River seemed to be dispersed, and I Ching could not block it at all. He was severely injured and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Tang Dingshan, King Dingshan, one of the top 10 experts of the North Chan River. His strength was not something I Ching could match. The gap between them was as wide as the gap between heaven and earth. The new king of North Chan, I Ching's head was buzzing, and his face was pale. At this moment, the prison guards behind him reacted. They knelt on the ground and shouted in the most respectful manner, "Greetings, King of North Chan." The newcomer was Lin Feng. There were many things waiting to be done in the North Chan River. The position of King of North Chan had just been confirmed, and there were many things that needed to be followed up and dealt with. The most suitable candidate was undoubtedly the eldest princess, Tang Wanfeng. Therefore, Lin Feng did not bring her here. Basically, Ziruxuan and Tang Dingshan were more than capable of handling the situation in the North Chan River. "Get up," Lin Feng said indifferently. He glanced at I Ching. It was normal that he did not recognize him, because he had only seen his true body. He had never seen his Tyrant Dragon avatar, and he did not know the other name of his Tyrant Dragon avatar. Tang Feng. I Ching gritted his teeth and cursed himself 1,000 times in his heart. He was extremely regretful. He struggled to get up and knelt on the ground like the other prison guards. He said, "I did not know that King of North Chan was coming. I should die 1,000 deaths for my crime." Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He appeared in front of I Ching in an instant. He looked down at him and said coldly, "Since you know that you should die 1,000 deaths, then die." Smack! He grabbed I Ching with one hand as if he was grabbing a chicken. I Ching's eyes were bloodshot. His head was buzzing. He opened his mouth, but could not speak. He looked at Lin Feng as if he was looking at the devil and kept struggling. However, his strength was not worth mentioning in front of Lin Feng. "You don't recognize me?" Lin Feng smiled and suddenly changed his voice, releasing the aura of his true body. I Ching's expression changed abruptly, revealing a shocked expression, and his eyes widened even wider than copper bells. "It's him. It's that human. Impossible. How could it be him?" I Ching struggled with all his might, wanting to speak, but in an instant his throat was crushed. Lin Feng's eyes were cold as the earth's energy surged into I Ching's body, directly shattering his body. Bang! I Ching was scared out of his wits. The entire northern underworld celestial prison was dead silent. All the prison guards were silent, not knowing what had happened. They lay on the ground, not daring to raise their heads, for fear of angering the temperamental new king of Beichan. "Who is the deputy commander here?" Ziruxuan raised her eyebrows and shouted. One of the big-headed Chan river demons on the ground raised his head and replied in a trembling voice, "This humble one is here." He looked at Lin Feng as if he was looking at the devil. He was afraid that he would follow in I Ching's footsteps. "From now on, you'll be the great commander of the northern underworld celestial prison," Lin Feng said to the big-headed Chan river demon. The latter was stunned. He pointed at himself and said, "Me? Do you want the king of Beichan to say the same thing twice?" Ziruxuan reprimanded with one hand on her waist. No, this humble one obeys." The big-headed Chan river demon cowed out. His trembling voice was filled with joy. "Thank you for the promotion, King of Beichan. This humble one will do my best until my death." "That's enough." Lin Feng waved his hand. Bring me to the cell where the seventh princess is being held. Chapter 16:29. In the pitch-black prison, the water dripped onto the black stone floor, echoing endlessly. There was no light here. It was like a dead zone. Those who entered could never leave. In this pitch-black world, a ghostly young girl sat quietly. Her snow-white skin seemed to be carved from jade, and her elf-like ears were slender and beautiful. However, her beautiful eyes had no luster, as if they had lost their soul. The seventh princess, Tang Xian. She had never thought that she would be imprisoned here. However, after entering, she understood. Not only her, but the second, third, and ninth princesses were all imprisoned in the Dark North prison. The first princess, Tang Wanfeng, had made meticulous arrangements for the position of king of Beichon. If not for the fact that Tang Wanfeng still cared about their sisterhood, they would have been killed long ago. But now it was no different from being dead, because she would never be able to leave. Creak. In this silent area, even the slightest sound was very clear, not to mention the heavy metal door opening. It was as if a mountain was being pushed. Tang Xian was slightly startled and looked over. An unfamiliar figure entered, but it gave her an inexplicable sense of security. Who was he? Unlock and release her, Lin Feng said. Yes. The new commander immediately responded. His movements were very familiar, and he quickly opened the door of the prison and released Tang Xian. The latter was still in a daze, and she stared blankly at Lin Feng. Why aren't you greeting the king of Beichon? The new commander reminded softly. King of Beichon? Tang Xian finally understood. She bowed and said, Tang Xian greets the king of Beichon. Lin Feng smiled. He glanced at Tang Xian and relaxed. Although Tang Xian was imprisoned in the prison, the first princess, Tang Wanfeng, still cared about their sisterhood and did not harm her. My king, we'll leave first, Ziru Xuan said tactfully. Lin Feng nodded. Soon, only Lin Feng and Tang Xian were left in the sealed prison. You, Tang Xian, bit her cherry lips, not knowing what to do. This was the first time she had seen the king of Beichon. Like I Ching, she had never seen Lin Feng's T-Rex clone. It's me. Lin Feng smiled. Lin Feng spoke with his real body's voice. A familiar soul aura was released. Lin Feng stretched out 3 fingers and said, This is the third time. Tang Xian stared blankly at Lin Feng. The third time? Familiar memories churned in her mind. That voice, that aura, formed many images in her mind, warm and touching. Instantly, Tang Xian revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. You are Lin Feng? In total, Lin Feng had saved Tang Xian 3 times. From the first time he had saved this snow-white girl in the Han tribe, it was destined that they would never be able to part with each other again. After going around in circles, now that they were reunited, not only was Tang Xian extremely excited, Lin Feng was also very happy. Will Tang Wanfeng be unhappy that I let her take over the position of king of Beichon? Lin Feng asked. Tang Xian shook her head and said, The position of king of Beichon belongs to the capable. In terms of strength and ability, Sister Wanfeng is more suitable than us. Lin Feng nodded. Tang Xian continued, I have admired Sister Wanfeng since I was young. She is the most outstanding one among us. She is the best in everything. Sometimes, I even think that she is more powerful than father. But for some reason, the more powerful and mature Sister Wanfeng is, the less father likes her. Instead, he likes ninth sister. Lin Feng smiled. Tang Xian naturally did not understand. The thoughts of an emperor were the most difficult to fathom. From Tang Ji's point of view, First Princess Tang Wanfeng's strength was a huge threat to him. A mountain could not accommodate 2 tigers. The stronger First Princess Tang Wanfeng was, the more unstable Tang Ji's position was. Originally, the Beichon River Demon tribe did not have any real blood relations. As Tang Wanfeng grew stronger, Tang Ji began to secretly deploy to kill First Princess Tang Wanfeng. After that, the First Princess Tang Wanfeng fought for the throne. Unexpectedly, after all the scheming, it ended up benefiting him. You will understand the struggle between ambitious and ruthless people in the future. Lin Feng said to Tang Xian'er, "The struggle for power is just a passing cloud. Only strength is the true foundation of a foothold. Remember." Tang Xian'er nodded heavily. "Otherwise, I won't be able to save you the fourth time you get caught." Lin Feng joked with a smile. Tang Xian'er pouted. After rescuing Tang Xian'er, Lin Feng immediately stayed in the Beichuan Royal District for the time being. Firstly, he had just taken over as the Beichuan Royal District. There were many things that he needed to decide personally. Secondly, his main body was still cultivating at the intersection. There was still some time before he could break through the bottleneck. He was not in a hurry to leave the Beichuan River. Only with sufficient strength could he truly establish a foothold in the northern continent and the Tengqi continent. Lin Feng was very clear about this. His next step was to leave with the White Will tribe and find a new territory. He also wanted to return to the northern continent. There were many things waiting for him to do. Moreover, he was not from the Beichuan River Demon tribe. Cultivating in the Beichuan River would always be somewhat limited. Now that the Beichuan River was too stable, he could cultivate steadily and step by step. However, without danger or challenge, it would be very difficult for him to improve further. Return to Yuan City. I'll go and meet the two winged monarchs of the northern continent's winged clan. Then, I'll leave the northern continent. Lin Feng was very clear about his next step. The northern continent was only a starting point. This chaotic and lawless region was a war-torn land that the winged clan, the ruler of the Tengqi continent, had tacitly allowed. It was for the sake of nurturing winged clan experts through endless killing and battles. In the northern continent, there seemed to be many experts, but in reality, they were all ordinary experts. It was the weakest continent among the four great continents. Coral Imperial Palace. There was an invisible thread connecting Lin Feng's main body and the strange boulder. Strands of spatial energy entered his body, causing the black whirlpool to spin continuously. His spatial comprehension increased day by day. Advanced spatial true meaning, spatial seal. This strange boulder that was born during the Primal Chaos era had a unique and powerful energy. Lin Feng's main body and the Tyrant Dragon clone had only comprehended a trace of it, but they had already advanced to Black Region Master. If they could completely comprehend it, their strength, realm, and life force would reach a terrifying level. However, the further one progressed, the more detailed it would be. Even though Lin Feng had established a miraculous connection with the strange boulder, communicating and comprehending it, it was only a drop in the ocean. He had comprehended a small portion of the spatial true meaning, but even so, it was already very impressive. His strength and realm were steadily increasing. Chi! Lin Feng raised his hand, causing the black whirlpool to spin and space to distort. The space in front of him changed unnaturally, as if everything was sealed. However, it instantly returned to its original state. Lin Feng shook his head. I can only seal it for a moment. He had been in seclusion for a long time, but he could only use this much. Currently, I'm almost at my limit. Lin Feng was very clear that he would need a long time to comprehend and cultivate. Now was not the right time. It was about time for him to leave. I'll return to Tang Xian's territory first and meet everyone. Lin Feng left the Coral Imperial Palace. Chapter 1630. Tang Xian's territory was in constant competition with Tiger's Roar's territory. Because Tang Xian's territory was ceded from Tiger's Roar's territory, Tiger's Roar King had always been unhappy. However, because Tang Xian was the lord of Tang Xian's territory, Tiger's Roar King did not dare to act rashly. However, things were different now. Northern Chan River had changed. Tiger's Roar King did not know who the new king was, but he knew that his master, Princess Tang Wanfeng, was now in charge of the entire Northern Chan River. She was under one demon and above 10,000 demons. The matter of annexing Tang Xian's territory was placed in front of Tiger's Roar King. Lord, what should we do next? Beast Envoy Qian, one of the 4 envoys under Tiger's Roar King, asked. Continue to pressure and test the bottom line of Tang Xian's territory. Tiger's Roar King placed his hand on the golden tiger head on his throne with a powerful aura. His eyes were sharp. "Don't worry, one step at a time." "Yes, Lord." Beast Envoy Qian accepted the order and left. As the envoy returned, Tiger's Roar King turned his head to the other side where Envoy Qing Mu was. "Lord, he has not returned yet," Envoy Qing Mu said. Tiger's Roar King frowned. He was a wily old fox with rich experience. He clearly knew that annexing a territory was not something that could be done easily. It had to be done on two fronts and ask Princess Tang Wanfeng. However, after sending the envoy for a long time, there was still no news. "It may take some time, Lord," Envoy Qing Mu said. "Now that the new king has just been appointed, Princess Tang Xian has many things to deal with. I'm afraid she has no time to meet the envoy." Tiger's Roar King nodded. He also knew that Princess Tang Xian was very busy. Not to mention the envoy. Even if he went in person, Princess Tang Xian might not necessarily meet him. Princess Tang Wanfeng was now the true ruler of northern Chan River. "Lord, you don't need to worry. Unless Princess Tang Xian releases Princess Tang Xian for old time's sake, it is only a matter of time before we annex Tang Xian's territory," Envoy Qing Mu said. Tiger's Roar King nodded. If Princess Tang Xian wants to be released, she should have returned long ago. At this moment, there was still no movement. This meant that 7th Princess Tang Xian was still imprisoned or even killed, so the Tiger Roar King was not very worried. But what he did not know was that Princess Tang Xian was released, was a secret. Currently, the 7th Princess Tang Xian had even entered the northern Shan region to excavate her potential and concentrate on improving her strength under Lin Feng's supervision. Because Lin Feng's departure was imminent, he hoped that 7th Princess Tang Xian would have enough ability to protect herself before he left. At the border of Tang Xian's territory. "Damn it, let's fight them to the death." Bai Tang and Bai Qi led the group of people from the White Wolf tribe. "Human, there's no need for you to get involved in our war," Tang Lan said. "We live in Tang Xian's territory. How can we just stand by and do nothing?" Bai Qi said, "We humans have a saying. We can't just think about ourselves. The 7th Princess has treated us with kindness, and the Chan River Demon tribe in Tang Xian's territory sees us as friends. We will do our best to help." Bai Qi clenched her fists and said, "Even if we die, we will not be cowards." "Good." Tang Hong's eyes sparkled as she gave him a thumbs up. Tang Lan smiled. "It seems that our previous view of humans was too shallow." Bai Qi smiled and said, "There are good and bad humans, just like the Chan River Demon tribe." Tang Lan nodded. "That's right. We will be friends from now on. We will share weal and woe." "Friends." Bai Qi smiled sincerely. Two pairs of hands shook. Humans and the Chan River Demon tribe would also have a sincere friendship. As long as one was sincere, there would be rewards. In the distance, the Chan River Demon tribe in the Tiger Roar region kept testing the limits of Tang Xian's territory. They kept attacking, probing, and provoking. The experts in Tang Xian's territory were about to lose their patience. They clenched their fists and prepared to attack to protect the dignity of Tang Xian's territory. Once Tang Lan and Bai Qi gave the order, the great battle would begin. At this moment, boom, a white light flashed past like a huge blade of light. The bright light was extremely dazzling. The surging energy of heaven and earth covered everything. As the light descended, the experts in Tang Xian's territory instantly lost their sight. Their vision recovered in an instant. However, the scene in front of them was different. The experts in the Tiger Roar region who were provoking them were gone. The Chan River's water flowed continuously. It was clear and smooth. What happened? The experts in Tang Xian's territory were shocked. They were completely stunned. Were they dreaming? Where were the Chan River Demon tribe in the Tiger Roar region? Where did all the masters of the Dark region go? Shua, a human figure appeared. With a confident smile, he stepped into Tang Xian's territory. His appearance was like a gust of wind or a beam of light. He arrived in an instant at an extremely fast speed. He merged with heaven and earth, and no one could sense his aura. "Long time no see, everyone." Lin Feng smiled, revealing a clear smile. Lin Feng, Lin Feng, Tang Lan, Tang Hong, and the experts in Tang Xian's territory widened their eyes. The group led by Bai Qi and Bai Tang instantly became excited and quickly surrounded him. To them, Lin Feng was their backbone. It was Lin Feng who saved the White Wolf tribe. It was Lin Feng who brought them to the North Chan River, to Tang Xian's territory, saving their lives and preserving their tribe's inheritance. Now he was back. Great, great! Bai Qi was so excited that she couldn't speak. After Lin Feng left, he had been under a lot of pressure. After all, with his strength, he wasn't able to truly shoulder the burden of the White Wolf tribe. However, at this moment, all his pressure was released. Bai Tang looked at Lin Feng and revealed a sincere smile. She and Lin Feng were the first to meet, and their relationship was the deepest. Seeing the young man from back then walk step by step and possess such strength, Bai Tang was happy for him from the bottom of her heart. Although she didn't know how strong Lin Feng was, she was certain that he was very powerful. Bai Tang had seen the scene just now. Brother Lin Feng, did you kill those bastards in Tiger Roar's territory? Tang Lan reacted and looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Thank you for taking care of the brothers in the White Wolf tribe. It's my duty, Tang Lan said and smiled at Bai Qi. We're friends. Lin Feng also smiled. Yes, they were friends. Now is not the time to catch up. I still have some things to take care of. Wait a moment, I'll be back soon, Lin Feng said to Tang Lan. Take care of what? Tang Lan was stunned. Clean up Tiger Roar's territory. It's too noisy. After saying that, Lin Feng didn't care about the stunned Tang Lan and the others. His figure flashed and left. He left behind a group of people with wide eyes. Lin Feng was going to clean up Tiger Roar's territory alone? Did they hear it wrong? Chapter 16:31. Tiger Roar Territory. Not good, my lord. Beast Envoy Qin staggered in from outside the palace. The Tiger Roar King, who was discussing territorial matters with a group of Chan River monsters, frowned and revealed a displeased expression. His hairy right hand pinched the golden tiger head on the tiger chair and shouted, Why are you panicking? Where are your manners? Outside is killing their way in, my lord. Beast Envoy Qian's eyes were filled with shock as his voice trembled. Killing their way in? The expressions of the Chan River Demon Clan members changed abruptly, and they were instantly thrown into chaos. The Tiger Roar King's eyes widened with shock and surprise. Which bastard dares to attack our Tiger Roar territory? Impossible. We don't have any territories around us that can compete with us. He immediately thought of Tang Xian's territory. It was the only one that had a deep hatred for them, but the strength of Tang Xian's territory was so meager that it could be ignored. It's a human, Beast Envoy Qian said in panic. A human? The Chan River Demon Clan members, who were at a loss of what to do, were stunned for a moment. Then, they burst out laughing and relaxed. Beast Envoy Qian, what's the fuss about a human? That's right, what's a human? In Chan River, even the Winged Men clan can't do anything to us. Only one? Haha, you must be joking. Even the Tiger Roar King let out a sigh of relief. His solemn expression relaxed as he revealed a smile. I thought it was a big deal. It's just a human. No, Tiger Roar King, this human. Beast Envoy Qian's face was filled with panic as he continued to speak. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the entire palace shook violently, and an enormous aura instantly pressed down. Like the might of the heavens, like a majestic mountain, the aura was so huge that it shook the heavens. The group of Chan River monsters was shocked. Pong! The gate of the palace shattered, and a black figure strode in. His expression was calm, and his eyes were indifferent, but there was an unfathomable temperament. It was Lin Feng. Although the strength of his original body was not as strong as the Tyrant Dragon clone, he had reached the peak of the Master of Black region and was comparable to the 3 strongest experts. A mere Tiger Roar territory could be turned into ashes with a flick of his finger. Before leaving, he would settle the old and new grudges. Whoosh! The roaring Tiger King widened his eyes as blue veins popped out. He was unable to restrain his rage. To think that he, the dignified king of the Tiger's Roar territory, had been bullied by a human at his doorstep. How would he react if word got out? He immediately roared, "Why haven't you caught this human yet?" The group of Chan River Monster clan members quivered and swarmed forward. With the advantage in numbers, how could they put Lin Feng in their eyes? Not to mention, there was also the Tiger Roar King behind them. They were like dogs relying on their master's power to bully others. Only the beast messenger who just came in to report was so scared that his lips turned pale. He staggered to the side and kept retreating. "Beast Envoy Qian, what are you doing?" The Tiger King was enraged after seeing the strange phenomenon of the Beast Envoy. "Yes, sir." Beast Envoy Qian came back to his senses and his face turned pale. Right at this moment, chi, 10 streaks of cold light appeared almost at the same time, as if two huge crosses had appeared in the air. They froze and stopped for a moment. The entire space seemed to have stopped in an instant, and the entire hall became abnormally quiet. But it was only for a moment. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The earth shook and the sky shook, mixed with the shrill screams of the Chan River Monster Clan members. Blood splattered everywhere, and pieces of flesh flew everywhere. The black figure holding the saber exuded a terrifying aura as he slowly stepped through the encirclement of the Chan River Monster Clan members. His saber was too fast. One could only see the saber light, but not the saber itself. The Chan River Monster Clan members who were swaggering around a moment ago were now dead. Not a single Chan River Monster Clan member dared to approach because they were killed before they even got close. He showed no mercy. He was completely above the rest of the Monster Clan members. This. The Tiger Roar King's eyes widened in shock. He was completely dumbfounded. The strength of the human in front of him was too terrifying. He had never seen such a person before, but he had killed all his subordinates so easily. "Kill! Hurry up and kill him!" The Tiger Roar King roared hysterically, his eyes showing his anger. However, less than half of the remaining Chan River Monster Clan members did not dare to take half a step closer. There was only fear in their eyes. Although it was only for a moment, it was enough. Lin Feng's terror had left an indelible impression in these Chan River Monster Clan members' minds. It was a deep shock. Although they obeyed the Tiger Roar King's orders, they were not stupid enough to throw away their lives in the face of disaster. On the other side, the Qian Beast Envoy, who had already seen Lin Feng's terror, did not dare to move even half a step. He could only watch as this heaven-defying human approached the Tiger Roar King step by step. Although there was only one person, his powerful aura had already dominated the entire area. Bang! The Tiger Roar King kneeled on the ground. "Your Excellency, please spare my life. I do not know how I have offended Your Excellency. I will immediately change. I have already given you a chance." Lin Feng looked at the Tiger Roar King and said indifferently, "Chance?" The Tiger Roar King was startled and raised his head in a daze. Lin Feng continued, "It is just that you want to annex the Tang Xian territory again and again. Your ambition is endless." The Tang Xian territory. The Tiger Roar King's heart shook as he instantly understood. Although he did not know how the Tang Xian territory managed to invite such a terrifying human, he had no other choice at the moment. Begging for mercy was useless, and he was only trying to numb the enemy earlier. Gritting his teeth, the Tiger Roar King lowered his head and his eyes became fierce. His two claws ferociously clawed at Lin Feng. "Go to hell." The Tiger Roar King crazily launched a sneak attack. But boom! Aurora's saber was so fast that before the Tiger Roar King's claws could reach Lin Feng, it had already split his huge body into two halves. The saber light crisscrossed. Lin Feng's attack was simple, but its power was tyrannical. With Lin Feng's current strength, the Tiger Roar King was not even qualified to launch a sneak attack. In fact, even if the Tiger Roar King used all of his strength, he would not be able to harm even half a hair on Lin Feng's head. The gap in strength was too great. Boom! Lin Feng directly smashed the Tiger Roar King into pieces. The huge hall was dead silent. The remaining Chan River demons, including the Qian Beast Envoy, were pale. They did not dare to utter a single word after seeing the death of the Tiger Roar King. No one wanted to offend this fiend and be slaughtered. Lin Feng's gaze swept through the hall. With his strength, killing the remaining Chan River demons was only a matter of seconds, but it was not necessary. By the order of the Northern Chan King, from today onwards, the Tiger Roar territory will officially belong to the Tang Xian territory. Lin Feng's voice was calm as he gravely said, "The Chan River demons of the Tiger Roar territory who are willing to submit to the Tang Xian territory will be forgiven. As for those who are unwilling to submit, die." As the voice resounded, the Chan River demons of the Tang Xian territory widened their eyes. Thump, thump, thump. The sounds of kneeling resounded one after another. The Chan River demons of the Tiger Roar territory were overjoyed as if they had just received amnesty. "We are willing to submit,"